Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League here on the Road to Worlds Day 3 Match 2 and our final matchup here in week number 4 of the SPL. I'm Jim. I got Charlie joining me here on the desk. To help me jump into this one, Charlie, we got a good matchup ahead of us here. I believe the last time that these two teams played against each other was all the way back in the first week here in this phase. So interested to see now the growth of the Highland Ravens. Now they've had some time to keep Zapman on this team, gotten to really work alongside him, and then to see if anybody can once again stop the Oni Warriors, because it felt like ever since their loss, they've come back swinging even harder than ever.
Yeah, they're kind of like hydras, right? You cut off a head, 2 more grow back in their place, and so far that has been the case. We saw 1 loss, we're like, that was weird, right? They didn't look like themselves. Are they going to play up to that standard? And then they come back and they're like, no more doubts. Get that out of your head right now. So definitely a tall task to try and climb up, but hey, the Ravens are on a hot streak as well.
And like I said, this is the final matchup of our weekend. If you've missed out on any of the SPL, well, here's a quick little recap for you. All the way back on Friday, 3-2 for Leviathans, a 3-0 for the Ravens over these Ferrymen and Kings, respectively. And then we had a 3-1 Styx Ferrymen over Gladiators, 3-0 Camelot Kings on Saturday. Today, you just missed out on a full sweep for the Jade Dragons with their new additions to the roster of Porsche Coast, looking probably better than ever as a Jade Dragons team. Took down the Atlantis Leviathans, and now we move into our final set, the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens. No roster changes since the initial portion of the phase, at the very least for these two teams. So now we get to see how the Highland Ravens as a team has matured over the course of these last few weeks to now once again go up against the Oni Warriors to see who will come out on top this go around. Again, that was actually the very first match of the phase, was the Oni Warriors and the Highland Ravens. Again, that one went Warriors 3-0. And some standings implications that could be made with this one. Not immediately as far as between these two teams, but Highland Ravens can find a win here. They can jump over the Camelot Kings in standings. Not a loss to the Oni Warriors won't hurt them now. It only put them at 4-2, but would still at least give the Highland Ravens a chance to maybe try and take back over and potentially now move up into that first seed spot for themselves. So Oni Warriors want to try and maintain the top of the leaderboard for themselves if possible. Highland Ravens want to try and continue their fight back up. So I think that this is going to be a big standings implication set here. Again, while it won't immediately go, Highland Ravens, oh, now all of a sudden jump to first seed, but it puts them on that road to move up there.
And if that's your goal, which it certainly should be, this is a must-win for the Highland Ravens just because it's a big deal. But as far as I'm concerned, again, I feel like I'm the one who always keeps saying it, but we're in the road to Worlds, man. You got to make sure that every single one of these wins counts, and if it doesn't count, then it's a learning experience.
Yeah, I think for really both of these two teams, the Oni Warriors have been looking very strong for themselves, the Highland Ravens as well. But I kind of want to talk in particular about the solo laners of these two teams. Looking at SOT, I mean, the previous time that we got to see SOT and the squad of the Oni Warriors, it was against the Gilded Gladiators, and it wasn't particularly a close set. In fact, it had our fastest set, I believe, maybe even the entire year.
Of all time.
Wasn't all time, unfortunately. But I do believe it was one of our fastest games of the year, if not at the very least the phase. A sub-20 game against the Gladiators, a big win for this team over here. And the Oni Warriors, in general, have been looking very strong and very dominant. We got a chance to sit down with the man on your screen right here, Genetics, and kind of get his thoughts going into this set.
General vibe for the team right now would probably be that we're pretty comfortable being a lot of the lower teams, but we're trying to find our footing against the Ferrymen and the Levis. That's kind of where our focus is right now, making sure we're being the top dogs. We played pretty well. I think we've played, as we expected, like clean 3-0s. Maybe not clean in game, but the overall set went the way we thought it would. But yeah, the Ravens have been looking okay. The roster swap hasn't worked out for them too well so far. I think, obviously, with Zapman being a little bit, maybe like partially washed just because of the break he's had. And obviously he's coming in as a big shot caller. You need to have that experience and keep playing to be good at what you're good at. Yeah, we're very confident against the Ravens. I mean, Hurriwind literally watches all my streams, so he's about 2 weeks behind me. I think we'll probably sweep them, but they should look a bit better than they have done in the previous weeks.
It's called Zapman Wash.
He said Hurry just watches my stream, so he's 2 weeks behind me. Did you miss that part?
I slightly missed that part because I was still dialed in on the Zapman's got to be watched from the short break that he had already had.
And he said it ice cold. Like I thought he was saying it to me. He was like he looked right at the camera and he said Zap's washed and Hurry, he's watching me play. Like there's just nothing they can do. And you know what? I would usually say words like that. You know, you can't back them up, but genetics a lot of the time does.
Not just genetics. man right here on your screen, SOT, has been a dominant factor for this team. Has had quite the flexible god pool as well. We did see the set come out last week. We've seen things like Surtur pop through, more traditional soul lane, but also sometimes some of the sillier soul lane. We've seen Merlin, we've seen the Morrigan, all kinds of different picks have come from SOT. And really it kind of also boils down to just the confidence level of the team as a whole to allow him to be able to take picks like these. This one up against the Gladiators, a 2v5 base defense with he and Pegon. One gets a double, one gets a triple. You can argue over who actually deserved the penta in that one. Pegon said it was him because he got the first two, and then Sot ruined the rest.
That makes sense.
Don't worry, the very next team fight, Sot goes ahead and just picks up his own penta after Pegon dies at the very beginning of the fight, so no chance for it to be stolen. Oh, we got to jump right into the pentakill after, but I mean, this has just been a team and really a player in general who has so much confidence in his playstyle and has also probably played more Smite in a single week than some people put into a month or even multiple months. I mean, this guy does 8 to 12-hour streams consistently playing ranked matchups and really has put so much time into the game. I would say he's probably played more Smite than I've been he's probably played more Smite in the last 3 to 4 months than I've probably cast since I've been here.
That checks out. I mean, the man loves the game, and he's got a great mind for it, and in doing so, does open up your god pool, right? If you're going to play that much Smite, you're going to be playing a good majority of the cast of characters as well, which evidently is a good habit to have as a solo laner because the meta is just so ever-changing. Haddix certainly has the ability to go to some of those different style of picks as well, but really nothing like Sot as far as I'm concerned. This man, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but he's always cooking something up.
Yeah, Haddix sticks to a lot more of the traditional stuff. You look at some of his last games played, probably the most standout one is the Thor, but Thor solo is still a thing.
Whoa.
And then Cthulhu is another one he brought up, and he was running that with a Cthulhu Morrigan combination to kind of bring back that old style of meta, but only saw it the one time. So, wonder what we'll see from these two solo laners exchanging some waves across the booth to each other as they are both highlighted upon the screen. But Haddix has always been a player, even on his time in its previous teams, when you look back to him on the Bolts and even kind of his uprising. Haddix has never, at least from what I've seen, been a player that, you know, ever really costs his team any games. He's always at the bare minimum, usually going even or going positive in there. Now we get a look at the god pool between them. Now, this is all of Season 10. We looked at the Hunters yesterday, and it was just the phase. It was like 8 to 5. Haddix has not played a whole lot of different gods. He's played 14 total so far for this year. Nearly double, look over on the other side here for SOT. But you also got to remember that this was partially when we had the undefeated Oni Warriors, and it felt like they could just play anything that they felt like because there was no team that was able to stand up to them.
That is a lot more of the off-meta picks. Yeah, the unique picks. Which, like I said, sometimes works out, sometimes doesn't. More often than not, though, it has been working out, and that's kind of the big difference maker. It's so annoying when something new pops up into the solo lane meta that you're not prepared for, or that has a good matchup into the, you know, the top meta picks that you are going to, and because of that, you got to watch out for that early matchup, right? How many solo lanes have we seen just live and die by that first blue buff spawn, right? If that blue buff goes away, that means you got the timer. You're going to be at every single blue buff spawn from there on out. You got the lead. It might turn your jungler off from even showing up to that spawn. And then you're like 2 levels down when you rotate in. Sot, I can't think of many times where he's 2 levels down rotating into team fights anymore. Like, that just does not seem to happen. Because more often than not, he's going to have pressure in the lane or be even, and he's going to be on point with finding that farm elsewhere, which is extremely important for a meta like this, where a lot of it is reliant on junglers, yes, but what happens at level 12 when these solo laners rotate into beacon fights, to gold fury fights, to these early teleports? All can be game-changing.
And I think bringing up the blue buff, while it seems subtle, it is something we can talk about a little bit more here once the picks bands start rolling through, but kind of talking about the blue buff in general. We looked up the Blues Ultras graphics. You know, Blues Ultra puts up all the stuff out every single week, and then oftentimes at the very top of one of his pages has the cool little player spotlights. The, oh, this guy got X amount of solo kills this week. That's really cool. Oh, this guy got this many different, you know, streak accolades, like this many doubles, this many triples. You look at SOT, he got his penta last week. That's a great one. Also had 13, was it 13 or 16? I think it may have actually been 16 blue buff steals just by himself, stealing that many blue buffs over the course of the 6 games that he had played, which, you know, you think over 6 games, okay, you take at least 1 buff every single game. That's 6. Oh, he did it twice. Oh, he essentially did at least 3 blue buff steals a game just on the average count out there. So this is a guy who's able to play aggressive in his lane and really make it work out for himself. As we do roll through the bans, Chernobog, Amaterasu, and Athena. For the Ravens, gives them a Yemoja first pick. Oni Warriors ban away Heimdall, Ishtar, and Camazotz. Heimdall, I think for me, Heimdall and Ishtar are maybe kind of the 2 standouts right now, Charlie, because we've seen what seems to be a fall off of the magical hunters. We're not seeing the Oloruns, the Freyas, a little bit less of the souls now. And it really feels like these 2 hunters are the one who have been rising to prominence.
Yeah, it seems like pressure and safety are 2 things that those gods are going to bring that not every other pick can do. And the Oni Warriors not in the mood to deal with Zapman on those gods. But that leaves open some powerhouses. Baba Yaga and the Yemoja sliding through here. Definitely a scary top 3. Throw Naja in the mix, sure, for some good CC. Hasn't been the best performing god in the world, especially out in the jungle, but if you're on point with the Naja, can definitely turn a team fight or just, put an objective in your favor, right? You get a pick, you take someone up with Windfire Wheels, now it's a 5v4 just right off the rip. So not a bad look for the Highland Ravens, whereas the Oni Warriors are going to take 3 magicals off the top. But you do have that prot shred, that magical shred, I should say, from the Cerberus, so you're not going to worry too much about that magical defense.
Yemoja, Neja, and Baba Yaga, one of the top performing mid laners. Now over for the Highland Ravens and Cerberus, Raijin, Soul, as mentioned for the Oni Warriors. Now I will open up this question for you, just because we have seen it a little bit in the past. Is this Raijin more so a kind of a guarantee lock-in for Pegon, like Pegon's just going to grab this one, no problem? Or you think that maybe that this could be one you give over to SOT, that way you can maybe have an extra little bit of physical damage with some of your carries?
It definitely could be. I'm going to wait until we see the other picks to be sure, but I would hope not. It's just the Raijin solo, I think, is gimmicky in the sense of if you're not ready for it, it can just out-pressure you. If you're not ready to put some CC towards it, it can control a team fight. But if you're ready for it, it isn't going to be any sort of end-all, be-all. So why not just build it damage and throw it in the mid lane? But again, we'll wait to see how the rest of the P's and B's go before I give you my stamp of approval. Thor and Pele being taken away. Looks like the solo lane and the jungle still targets for both of these squads. And I can see so. I already talked about how Naja is going to benefit from those beads being down so far. Highland Ravens don't have too many easy ways of pulling those beads. It's not like you're going to count on Riptides every single time from Hurriwind to try and confirm that beads. You'd like another way, and I'm pretty sure Olorun and Thor could do it. So smart bans there from the Oni Warriors. Whereas on the other side, yeah, you're going to need some physical damage, which Pele can certainly bring as well, considering the Oni Warriors have locked 3 magicals already. You'll want to focus on some of those heavy physical damage dealers like the Pele. And I was not gonna say like the Awilix, but hey, you do have the Riptides, and that could be annoying.
It's never fun getting pulled out of your own Riptide, or if you're the Baba Yaga, the blast off immediately afterwards. So maybe a little bit of respect on that way. Could also, and then maybe we see some other forms of leaps pop in from the Highland Ravens, or could also just be scared of the combo that does come through with a Cerberus. Looking across the board here at Panitom's picks recently, Mercury, Susano, Erlang, Shen, Pele, the 4 gods of his 6 most recent. We already do see at least the Pele of those ones banned away. So we'll see what Panitom elects to go to. Does he go towards one of these hard carry styles like the Mercury, bringing out what we'll call Adapting's new kind of patented double crit immediate start? Will not be instead.
You thought he wouldn't just pick Susano?
We'll go to Susano.
That's the Susano guy.
But I will ask, what are your thoughts on Susano now? I mean, we did have a bonus patch come through this past week. Did hit a little bit of a nerf this time through. I believe an extra 10 seconds on the ultimate. Caps it up to 100. And then his passive did get a little bit of a scaling nerf. Do you think that those are enough to dissuade your average Susano player? Or do you think that this is just a pick that Panitom is so good and so comfortable on that even with the nerfs coming through, it's not enough to dissuade him from it?
Yeah, considering we just watched a set where Lasbra and Adapting both went to the pick, and now game number 1, you still have Panitom, presumably Panitom, looking towards it. I don't think it's going to be enough to take him out of the meta. Sure, it hurts, but it'll be all right. Could have been something the Ravens banned away, but because he doesn't have that extra CC immediately, maybe a good target for the Naja. Could have been a thought process there for the Highland Ravens, so they're going to opt to let that one go. Wukong definitely still top of the solo lane meta. especially if you're not looking to scrap early on, if you don't want to fight in solo lane and you're just trying to exist and make sure you're not getting camped. Could be a good look. The Horus is another pick that I thought maybe the Highland Ravens could go to, but they are just going to lock in that Wukong. Pretty traditional as far as compositions go here for the Highland Ravens. Nothing out of the ordinary. This last pick is either going to give me some answers or give me even more questions as far as what the Oni Warriors are looking for.
Some Wukong and Anhur for the Highland Ravens. Gives Zapman something aggressive to play in lane. Maybe lacking a little bit of the initial burst damage from when a Naja lands from the ultimate, that Windfire wheels. You don't really have that big mage or immediate big burst hunter style of ultimate that go through to capitalize, but still plenty of damage on the immediate follow-up there. So at least now seeing kind of the Highland Ravens, their draft at this point, what's really the strongest point of their game? Is this a composition that thrives so much better in the early game? Is this one that can scale well to the late game? What's kind of that power curve for the Ravens?
I think they've got a good portion of the game covered already. You got the Anhur, who's going to be great for the early pressure. You have Yemoja, so your clear is going to be pretty solid, so dual lane's taken care of. Naja is a pretty good gap to bridge between late and early game, where as long as Windfire Wheels is on point, you're going to have a good time, but you got to be very selective. You can't be wasting that ultimate. So as long as Scream's on point, that should not be an issue here for the Highland Ravens. But the Oni Warriors, they are going to lock in that Horus, which I think is going to be just a lot of that early CC we were talking about, right? Wukong already going to be very safe, but once you rotate out of lane, can that Horus get active? Can you help out? Assuming, of course, that Horus goes to solo, where the majority of Horus has been played in solo for a while now, but Cerberus has also been showing his head in support in solo as well, so that could be a flex pick that you could switch up at any moment. We'll leave that one to the Oni Warriors. Either way, I'm just looking at team fight presence alone. Got a lot of burst damage, and that Soul is going to help out. I was talking about how Anhur just has that early pressure. Not easy to outpressure a Soul, especially over in duo.
Once you get that heat passive stacked up, makes it so easy to clear the waves. Bastions are never going to be safe, so you're probably going to lose out on those really quickly. So quick, easy gold going to the way of the Oni Warriors via their duo lane. Now with this Horus, this has been a pick that we've kind of coined alongside Genetics. You know, whenever he first jumped up into the league a few seasons back, grabs this Horus pick, makes some insane plays by piloting it to pull minions from one lane to another, pulling stuff over in towards opposite sides of the map in Phoenixes, just to really kind of break open the base and really showcase the strength of that god, so much so that the god immediately got a nerf after that because they said, wow, that was really good. We probably shouldn't allow that to happen so much. So for Genetics going to a comfort pick like this, one that he's so strong on, what level of confidence do you have for the Oni Warriors up against this Ravens team, even with the Ravens having their recent resurgence?
I mean, it's just super annoying to deal with late game, as we've seen, right? If you're in a siege situation and Horus just takes up a full wave, you gotta try and predict where he's going. You could fake right, you could just stay left. You don't even have to use that ultimate, you could just use the CC, and Horus has incredible mobility. So it's always going to be a pick you gotta keep your eye on, especially when Blink comes into the mix, because Blink Fracture is one of the most immediate stuns you can get. And you don't even have to put yourself out of position like, say, a Ymir does, where you just have that dash to get out of trouble. So I think a very strong draft there for the Oni Warriors. My only issue is that they're leaning so heavily towards the magical aspect, which isn't always an issue. It's just, does Soul have that Fire Giant shred? You know, those are the kind of things you have to worry about. Remember, a lot of these ability-based hunters are falling out of the meta because you can't do Fire Giant quickly. Soul's got a decent bit of shred, but not as much as like a crit hunter would provide, so you got to make sure your burst is on point as well.
It's been a pretty hot start for the Oni Warriors here in this phase. The Highland Ravens trying to ramp back up, but who can take game number one? Will it be the Ravens? Will it be the Warriors? Let's jump into our casters, Gormizer and Mifflin.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly. As we jump into game one of one, Mifflin, I am very excited for, but it's right, it's Gore, it's Miff. And of course, it's going to be Doug giving us the views into the battleground. And Mifflin, I'm really pumped to see this one because the Ravens, again, a nice 3-0 Friday over the Kings. Maybe something to prove here. The Warriors, still a top team, only one loss so far this phase. 2 losses this year. And a team that's going to give us a lot. Admittedly, the chat seems to think it's all in the Warriors' wheelhouse right now. A nice 69% over towards them.
I actually talked to the Jade Dragons.
I thought you were going to say you talked to Twitch chat.
No, I talked to Twitch chat, and we all consulted. We thought it was the Oni Warriors. No, I'm with Twitch chat. I think the Warriors clearly a favorite in this matchup. But the Jade Dragons informed me in very unkind words that I am A, incorrect, and B, a non-ball knower. That's a direct quote.
Yeah, that sounds like them.
So Highland Ravens maybe got something here in this matchup. I'll be excited to see it. It's hard to say, though. I mean, both these compositions are so good. I do really, really have a good deal of favorites for the Magical Hunters. I feel like that's a great way to start for the Oni Warriors to play through their patented pressure style. But on the other end, looking at the Highland Ravens, their team fight come late game. I mean, Baba Yaga's tankiness, Hurriwind's non-committal initiation, Haddix space creation. Both these drafts very good. I think, if anything, the Oni Warriors might have to get involved a little bit earlier on, either playing through that dual lane or even playing through mid. Raijin can really make it difficult for Baba Yaga to exist before she gets Prophetic. After Prophetic, nobody's making it hard for Baba Yaga. She's going to be just fine.
It takes a little bit of time to get there, though. So do something now is maybe the moral of the story. Looks like there is, I mean, overall, nothing too crazy going on. Panitom, of course, being able to play aggressive, but that's just Susano things. Pegon gets sashed, but I don't think there's too much to be said on either side of this. I know we were talking about it, or you had just mentioned it, where you've been favoring these magical carries along with the Cerberus over in the dual lane. Are you maybe caught off guard by how far pressed forward they are? Is this just better clear altogether than what Anhur Yemoja is going to provide?
Yeah, Magical Hunters hit harder, and they have mage abilities, so they're going to clear the wave a little bit better, and the auto attacks simply are just hitting harder as well. Yemoja's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting so far as pressure is concerned. So once Hurriwind gets a little bit more Omi to play with, could make it a bit easier, but until then, I mean, probably just about never, I don't think. We'll see the Highland Ravens be the ones putting the pressure out in this lane. Unless Scream makes a rotation, junglers can always shift up the power balance of these duo matchups.
Yeah.
And if one of them's going to make that rotation, I'd imagine it'd be Scream. Loves getting involved on that long lane. And Naja's got decent opportunity to at least catch out Cerberus. Soul a little bit less so with the Separate.
Yeah, Soul's just hard to capture, period, for a lot of gods. And like you said, Disapparate. We've seen some that have been just unfortunately timed for a few players on Naja, where you'll hit it, the Disapparate comes through literally right as you decide to win Fire Wheels, which maybe is on you for win Fire Wheelsing when the Disapparate's going, but definitely some wiggle room for Netrioid to be able to get away from that. We did see at least a small rotation, like Panitom was over here, shield buff, nothing too crazy. Maybe it's going to be the blue buffs. Scream has been focused on this right-hand side of the map so far. And maybe a trade is the best you're going to get. Sot, no teleport, has gone for Blink, so won't be able to make it back to lane or to that blue buff. Will be able to help trade them out.
Panitom's owning them.
Is he getting...
He did not pull the red.
I thought he pulled red for a second.
If he like stacks them, that would have been crazy.
But there's going to be Scream nearby. We've seen this a few times. He's going to get at least the speed. He's going to walk up.
No, you wouldn't.
He's going to try, and he is going to steal that away. No. He's got Pegon here. Oh my god, they're getting aggressive. They jump in. Okay, the ult misses.
Those taunts.
If a couple of more of those shots hit, maybe we're having a different conversation. Pegon. Man, I gotta get used to this, that if Pegon's on Raijin, he's gonna dash into the enemy buffs. That's just gonna be a truth at this point.
He's been jumping over walls so much, but that is a massive, massive little jungle swing for the Oni Warriors. It is a blue for blue trade, but speed and red taken by Panitom. Just great positioning, good timing from him, just knowing those rotation paths from Scream, spotting out that SOT had been forced back, knowing that that blue buff would be under pressure. Finds the right opportunity, takes away a good deal of it. We'll see some of that lead established shortly. Again, when you steal away those camps, worth a little bit less to you. You'll find the lead when you clear out your own. So, Panitom on first back won't be affording Jotuns, or perhaps will be able to wait it out, and does. That's big. He can now just start throwing out that ultimate, and he's got good targets for it. Rotations towards duo, even just catching Scream in the jungle. Forcing a fight before Scream can find CDR just makes Wind Fire Wheels a little bit longer on that cooldown. Could be valuable. That's a big power spike for the jungler.
It's always fun to watch when Naja's... Now I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that level. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on like gold, itemization. Like Panitom kind of gets away with murder. Ultimately, it's maybe not going to be the biggest difference, like you said. It could be just waiting for Scream to get this. Yeah, this big power spike really is what he's waiting on. Unless Pegon decides to make it a little bit more than that. So far, already low. Forces the Windfire Wheels. Panitom with a great pull back in, and that turns this fight back into something that could happen.
Has to hit it.
More
Whoa.
hit, misses the Thunder Crush, goes under the tower. He's going to trade life for life, but Pegon will not be outdone. He gets first blood, even if it costs him everything.
Yeah, Pegon said, look, it's worthwhile for me just to put another first blood accolade on his belt. Pegon, one of the most active mid laners in the league, finds the kill onto Scream, but a return kill for Ven. Still certainly valuable. The kill does go over to Scream, though. Spreads that assist a bit wide. I don't know. I just don't love anything that isn't affecting Baba Yaga negatively, and I don't think that's exactly affecting Baba Yaga negatively.
Yeah, anything that's not a number in the middle row, right? Like
Right.
that's or the middle column. That's what you really want.
You want to slow her down.
And unfortunately, that didn't happen. Panitom maybe playing too aggressively.
No
Good dash,
way.
gets past the wall. There's a great Riptide, though, that keeps him engaged. Beads get used, low health bar, and Scream is going to pick that one up with the ring. Genetics now has to get away. Vin leading the direction with his team, and together they're going to find more. Double kill for the jungler, 2 more assists for the Baba Yaga, and a 3-1 kill lead for the Ravens.
And good rotation from Haddix getting involved on the center of the map. If he's not there, it's probably just the 1 kill and done, but 72 transformations lockdown and no help from SOT means the Oni Warriors caught a bit off guard and outnumbered towards the center of the map. That's not exactly the pace you want to see for the Oni Warriors. Again, I really like the late game 5-on-5 engagement for the Ravens. I thought that the entire game plan would be get to that point, play it passive, play it slow. They're fighting back, and they're fighting back early. It's all off Haddix, too. I mean, you'd expect SOT to be getting the jump on those. Global presence on the Horus. Also is elected to pick up the Blink for a little bit of additional aggression. Instead, it's Haddix, making it look simple.
Now, Myth, it's only been 7 minutes, but I do want to ask now, like, how you feel maybe in response to those allegations of whether you do or do not know ball.
It's not feeling great, but also the gold lead is sub 100, so I'm not super concerned just
about it yet.
I think experience probably more important right now. Netrioid slight level lead. Jungle now advantage to Scream because of the 3-1 start. Scream, of course, been having himself just a phenomenal week. We'll see. We'll see. We'll check back in.
Yeah, our periodic ball check-in with Myth. Zap getting low, forces to use the ult. Falls back. Low mana as well. This has been a pretty heavy bully lane in favor of the Warriors. Genetics has been a huge part of that, but I don't know how confident they're feeling, again, under the tier 1. The good news is that for Sol, you don't have to worry about getting the fight. You're worried more about the tower push potential. It feels like Sol early on is just a tower killer through and through. Haddix, right side of the map, forcing the somersault cloud. Now Scream joins the fray, forced to use the windfire wheels to disengage. Pull back from Panitom, sash in, and here comes Pegon. You gotta hit these shots. He's connecting a few of them, needs a little help. Sok goes in, and Sok puts Scream down. Panitom with the chase forward goes for Haddix. You need a little more help, and Pegon does not care about tower lines. He doesn't care about the boundaries or the borders. He's going to go in and get aggressive. Vin unable to turn it around. In fact, you might have a 3v1. You have to play careful. The Cauldron gets Vin out. The dashes get the Warriors safe, at least on right. Left, it's not quite the same story. Netrioid put down in the ground. Genetics luckily avoiding some autos. Might overstay his welcome if he chose to try and secure this purple. Zap playing aggressive, and as he should. One.
Sure, Genetics?
For what, 2 kills overall?
Pegon's low.
Is the one who could turn this pick. What is he doing here?
He said, I'm not done with them, all right? I got the fight on right. Now I want it on left. Won't be a leap forward. Concerned perhaps about a jungler hovering nearby, but if Raiju hits either, if Raiju hits either of them, I mean, that's just a free kill for Pegon, so crazy that he makes the rotation.
He didn't just go back?
No, he said, I'll go left.
Okay.
He collected his wave in mid.
Panitom hasn't backed yet.
These guys are busy. There's a lot of farm on the map. I do want to shout out SOT, though, the ultimate that's to the skies from him to give the additional HP shielding to Pegon. If that's not there, Ven's got to kill. Clean play, good team play from the Oni Warriors.
That is, well, especially when you think about it, we talk about mechanics a lot for the Warriors. That's not something that you're going to be thinking about often. At least I'm not. Maybe that's the difference. That's a real big gap difference between me and the Warriors, which, let me tell you.
Massive
Gore
to Warriors chasm there.
I mean, you're thinking the Marianas Trench is a gap. It's bigger than that, right? We're talking galaxies apart. The Warriors, right now, trailing at least in kills. You had mentioned it earlier, but because of the way things have fallen, Gold Lead's really not in favor of either of these squads just yet. Experience has been, I mean, just whiplashed back and forth between the two. Now slightly in favor of the Warriors. And when I say that, I mean slightly. But it is a lead nonetheless. And now, Mifflin, I guess the real question is, and this is hard to predict whenever the Warriors come through, we're 10 minutes in. We're going to be looking towards like Pyro relatively soon, right? It's got a few minutes before it really spawns in. You've got Gold Fury. Are either of these teams in a position to pull an objective relatively early, or is it still going to be maybe pick-oriented for a while?
Both teams have pretty good potential at burning objectives, but neither side has overly powerful secure. So you likely are waiting for a pick before you look towards Gold Fury or Pyromancer. It's dependent on whether or not someone's forced back to base. Doesn't even necessarily need to be a pick.
Right now, it's a fight around the blue buff. If you can get a pick, it is going to be a stolen blue buff at that. Sot's relatively low. Has the ult, not going to be able to channel it, just gets burned down, but Genetics is rotated in, pulls in two, forces an ult from Vin, screams low, Pegon with a dash forward one more time into an enemy buff, but he's going to lose his life, still finds a kill, 2 for 1 with Scream going down. Buff to the Warriors, kills to the Ravens, and it seems like the disengage is going to be there. Meanwhile, Netrioid does the soul thing, rotates in, takes a tier 1, and it's only going to cost a purple buff.
I'm fully convinced that Pegon has no chill. Have we seen a defensive leap ever this game? It's leap in, immediately into Taiko drums, give me the CC immunity. I'm not taunting, I'm dealing damage. I want big numbers every single time.
I would give him like lateral leaps. I don't think I've seen defensive. He's definitely done one that has been net neutral though.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to up down. I'll avoid 1 bit of damage. You're right though, Netrioid making that rotation over towards the center of the map does open up the map for the Oni Warriors. Zapman does not match that rotation, instead tries his best to strip away some of that farm on the left-hand side. Unfortunately for him, the Warriors had cleared that out just before the fight, so instead, it's just a little bit of pressure on that left side tower. But here's the thing about towers, Gore. Zero-sum game. I don't care if it's a stiff breeze that'll knock it over. You're not getting the gold until someone actually does it. And Netrioid does it again. Tier 1 and left, taken.
Yeah, the towers are just pretty binary. They're either up or not. Either have the gold or don't. And like you said, he's taking 2. That's 1,000 gold for both of them, right? 500 each. And split across the team. At this point, Mifflin, that is pretty much the lead that the Warriors have. It is exclusively in the towers and from the gold they've got there. Shield buff, fought over.
Good
Genetics goes in for an ult, grabs 3, forces an ult from Zap, now screams up in the air with him. He's going to come crashing down. Netrioid, Pegon, going to be waiting for the jungler. Meanwhile, Panitom is just playing zone duty on the rest of them. You've got them all engaged, and it's kind of a split engagement overall. Panitom looking for Zapman.
Really?
Tries to go in, blinks forward, has damage, gets a dash out, but does lose his life for it. Meanwhile, they pick up Scream and at least bully Haddix a little bit. So it's going to be 1 for 2. This one in favor of the Warriors, but it has been trading blow for blow, kill for kill, it feels like, between these teams.
And every single time, I feel like the Oni Warriors are just saying, yeah, well, I'm going to die for it, but I want it, and I want it bad. It feels like Pegon's just leaping in aggressively every single time. Panitom's doing the exact same thing. What does it net you? Good deal of pressure, and perhaps a Gold Fury.
It's getting low. River's Rebuke is
reset.
Up. They actually drop that down, and again, it's not taking damage just yet. Reset completely. Low moment like that, sometimes you see a team come in, scoop it away from the others. Great discipline, I think, from both squads, just to make sure that it doesn't stay engaged. No one's trying to pick it up. No one's leaving the steal opportunity. So the Gold Fury, despite being within a stone's throw of death, stays standing. Oof. Sash, just off the mark of Panitom. And you've got both solo laners here as well. Could be a small 2v2 skirmish. Sot's going to go in, look for a stun onto Scream. Knockup's good. Panitom's going for the ult. Has it.
The timing.
Immediately finds it onto Scream, and then the low health bar should be enough.
Whoa!
But the fire wheels, well shot by Scream. Takes Panitom up to the air. Does he have the damage on land to find anything, or the escape? It doesn't matter. Haddix is there to help for 1, and the rest of the team is there to help for another. No way to Sot get away from here. 2 for 1. One more time. And again, the Ravens come out on top. Gold Fury pulled by the duo lane. Netrioid steps forward, forces Zap to ult. Does not have the Stellar Burst. Sorry, does not have the Supernova. Has the Stellar Burst in 2 seconds. He's going to step up, throws the ability out, and he just takes it. It's just that simple.
Up down?
Might lose his life for it. Will, thanks to Zap. But Pegon, he's here to try and make it even, Myth. I can't count it. I don't know how many died, but I know the Fury goes the Warriors, and they've got the small lead.
Just fights everywhere.
Look at that graph.
I mean, the graphs back and forth reflects exactly the pace of this game. 19 kills in 15, and Pegon is still going.
Hold on, I gotta get the energy, gotta get the wind back in my sails. The Scream comes down. Pegon misses the ult this time. Thundercrash should be coming back up relatively soon. Has to use the beads, will not survive. And that one finally, I say finally punished for dashing forward. I feel like it's happened 3 times this game. But no one's killing Pegon but him. And that's just the way it stands. Scream though. 3-5-5, 4-0 for Vin. You had been talking about the Baba Yaga earlier.
4-0-5.
Yeah. And he's got 9 stacks already on that prophetic.
And a 2-level lead.
So that's pretty good.
It is. Ven in a very good position. Will be coming very tanky very soon. And look at that. I mean, when your mid laner is allowed to be the zoner, that is an indication of a game that is about to go awry. The Oni Warriors need to address Ven sooner rather than later. I mean, the stacks on prophetic are going to be there. I think by the time the next actual engagement happens, likely fully stacked on that prophetic cloak. Let's talk about Scream though, Gore.
Yeah.
Because Scream's having himself another game on this Naja. The ultimate placement to catch out Panitom on back camps there. Reads the teleport away. I mean, just perfect. Survives for just long enough as well to keep that fight rolling. I thought for certain the Oni Warriors just had a free pick. I thought for certain after that sash was knocked up by Panitom's ultimate, that was it. That's curtains for that fight. Scream says, no, I got a little bit more.
I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised you remembered that one, because that feels like 5 fights ago.
And it was. But here's the thing, though.
It was real good.
It was a minute ago.
Yeah, that's the pace of this game in a nutshell. 20 kills, by the way, now in 17 minutes. And so if they take it maybe a little easier, we'll finally just hit the regular kill per minute mark. Of course, as I say that, Panitom put in trouble, forced to use the beads thanks to Scream, and Blink, a sash, and ult.
Net.
And now Net has the Aegis. Disapparate's going to help some, but you need a little more space, and just will not have it. Vin puts another on the board, 5-0-5. Go ahead and call it out, the 22 stacks on the prophetic. And an unscathed Baba Yaga. They've dealt with everybody else except for Ven.
And Ven is going to be the problem now. That damage starting to stack up too. He's got so much gold to play with. Penetration starting to get there through that Ob Shard. And the Highland Ravens playing with a lot of confidence. SOT shoved against the tower. That tower's going down.
Tower not going to stand too long. Luckily for the Warriors, they disengage and get out of there. And I guess doubly lucky for the Warriors is with that tower kill from the Ravens, they just match the map state. Tier 2s all still standing on both sides. Tier 1s on right for both squads, and admittedly both pretty much at the same health. A little bit more for the Warriors. The Mifflin fights on fights. The Ravens right now, I don't want to say are dictating the pace, because I don't think anyone's dictating the pace. The pace of this game is happening to us more than anything. But with Fury coming back up relatively soon, 30 seconds. Pyro in a minute and a half. Conversation has to be there for the Ravens. Small gold lead, but maybe the largest one we've really gotten to see this game.
It is. It's small. I mean, I don't think either side exactly at an advantage state just yet. Again, I really do love the Highland Ravens 5-on-5. We haven't really seen the 5-on-5 though. Best is 4v4 on that tier 1 mid tower. With the Fury coming up shortly, perhaps a good place to put some of that aggression. Need to be careful though. As we start to approach that 20-minute mark, both of these teams have very high potential. Just say, oh, you're on Fury. What about the Fire Giant on the other side? And have that immediate burn. So keep your eyes on them. Soul Laners tell the primary truths here. So if SOT is starting to move over towards that left-hand side, seems to me the Oni Warriors will be the proactive element around the Primal Fury. Haddix does have access to that teleport, though. Looking at wards on map, Highland Ravens haven't got the most aggressive wards, just the one top-sided gold, which we cleared out very shortly. Haddix might want to start walking over. Doesn't seem like he's going to have an easy teleport path in. Oh, excuse me. There's one right on top of Pegon.
It could give maybe the opening they need, like you said, to set some things up. That's not just aggressive positioning. That's a timer, I'm going to come to your green buff and ruin your life positioning for a ward.
Wow, that ward was so good, Gore. Spots Pegon leaving the Gold Fury pit, and the Highland Ravens say, you probably shouldn't have done that.
Nice and simple. I mean, just like that. Like you said, almost as if they're reading the minimap the way we are.
Yeah, I could see the whole minimap, but I didn't even see that ward.
And they are punished for it on the Warriors. Now up in the sky, Genetics comes down alongside Screammmmm. Over the wall, Pegon throws some shots. Haddix forced to use the Somersault Cloud. So they've balanced some things out ultimate-wise. A few more used from the Ravens. Pyromancer seems to be the main target. But the Ravens kind of controlling this fight. Small, now 2,000 gold lead. Sash on the Panitom, forces the beads. You've got damage. Venenu up into the ult. Scream's taking a lot of damage, though. Hurry with a great wall. And Scream's keeping him engaged. Somehow still living through all of this. Somehow still going, and he walks away. And instead, Pegon, Sot, they're the ones who are low. You need a couple more hits if you're the Ravens. And it seems like low health bars are lucky this time around. We've had a high kill count game, but 3 walk away on the verge of death.
That's all Hurriwind. That ultimate separates the fight. A little bit of HP shielding. Screammmmm, self-sustain. Gets himself out of there, makes himself scarce. Should he have survived? Probably not, but we could say the same of a few members of the Oni Warriors on the other side. Highland Ravens getting aggressive. It was Panitom caught in mid, now caught in right.
Up in the sky. It's going to be an easy crash down. Yeah, Scream's just playing the way he needs to. I mean, you had said it. He's playing a day. 3, 5, and 6. Maybe you don't know ball, Myth. I don't know. I mean, that's an outrageous allegation to be levied against anybody. We'll see, though. I mean, 13-9. If they can get this Pyromancer, we'll be talking 3,000 gold. Again, a nice, comfortable lead. 5-0-5 still for Venenu. But it is the entirety of the Ravens. 3,000 gold up and 1 Pyromancer stronger that are in control of this game 21.5 in.
Highland Ravens 2, also going to hit some pretty significant power spikes on this back. Compassion finish for Hurry. Double Runic Bomb in pocket for Zapman. That guy just doesn't want to buy wards. That's the only thing I can imagine that is. The Oni Warriors need to figure out an answer here. Every single time in the actual team fight, it's Screammmmm in first, Haddix in immediately afterward. Watch it. It's going to be Sash. There's likely going to be a response from SOT. We've seen it maybe 4 times this game. Sash in a fracture. And then Haddix says, you're not knocking him up afterward. I'll just connect the stun. Good job trading aggro from the Highland Ravens now. See how they play around this fire. It's burning quick.
Yeah, it's already half health. Genetics goes in. He's going to pick up 3, forcing an ult from Vin and Zap. Get some damage out. Scream into the sky with the Cerberus.
Still aggro.
Going up into the air. Lands down, but he's low health. This is going to look like good kills for the Ravens, and it is. Vin puts another one up. They're able to take down at least 2, but you lose 1 in the process. Pegon dashes forward and is punished for it one more time. Net, Panitom, last 2 standing for the Warriors. Ravens in control and with fire to boot. Well, the chase is going to continue. Seems like they're going to pull back. They've got a beacon on left. They can grab tier 2s galore to try and increase the wealth of their pockets.
Scream's the problem. He really is. The Oni Warriors cannot figure out an answer to this Naja. He's starting every single one of these fights. The real problem is going to be Baba Yaga, but because they haven't been able to address question number 1, which is who's stopping Screammmmm, Ven's not even an attainable goal at this point for the Oni Warriors. He really hasn't been under just about any pressure. Tough stuff, man.
Yeah.
Pegon has to trade out his life there. Likely could have survived if he chose to. Instead says, I'll take Fire Giant off of Screammmmm. Someone's got to do something. I mean, you're taking away some of his sustain, but it's not even as if Screammmmm was really going to be leveraging the Fire Giant all that hard. He's not there to be doing the damage. He's not there to be knocking down the structures. He's there to hit Sash and have the rest of the team follow up, and so far has executed on that plan perfectly. 26 kills in 24 minutes. An action-packed game, but it's the Highland Ravens who are separating themselves off a macro. Now a Fire Giant on 4. I'd like to see them start moving towards those towers. You can go ahead and collect the Gold Fury on the way. Siege defense from the Oni Warriors is not poor, Gore. You've got double mage, essentially, between Pegon and Netrioid, so keeping waves out going to be pretty decent. Your poke potential high as well. Double Divine Ruin, so even Genetics going to get involved a bit in that damage output. Won't be exactly as tanky as Hurriwind on the other side, but certainly a little bit more threatening. What's the answer? Do the Oni Warriors have enough damage to kill first point of contact? Can you just send Genetics in, maybe grab Hurry, maybe grab Haddix and knock them down? I'm just not so sure. And I'm not even sure the Oni Warriors have an opportunity to take a 5-on-5. Panitom just shows himself on right. The Highland Ravens taking it slow.
Well, you had mentioned Scream 3, 6, and 9. Damn, he's looking fine, and he's going in one more time, at least on the Genetics. Again, forcing some things earlier. That fight around the FG, one thing they started fighting before I could point out. The beads timers for Sot, Panitom, and Pegon were all within like 3 seconds of each other, and all of that was Scream. 6, 0, and 7. I haven't seen Vin have to use his beads or Aegis.
Nope.
I've not seen him hit cooldown, and that's something the Warriors are going to need here.
He's hitting hard, too. Did you see that? 450 on a stray potion onto Genetics? That's the support. That's a level 17 tank. He hasn't exactly bought the most defensive items, but that does not bode well for his ability to start off a fight.
Or survive. He's back in the base right now. Sash forward immediately. Netrioid was the target. Scream misses the Windfire Wheels, though, and that might be the turning point for this one. He's low, and finally someone's able to shut him down, and they answer the 1. And they save the Phoenix so far, keeping that one alive. Haddix is going to come crashing down. He's kind of surrounded, going to be tanking the Phoenix as well.
Phoenix is still
they don't have a whole lot of damage. It's barely living, but it's alive nonetheless. Panitom somehow still alive, and now with the Prod Shred, with the damage, they might have another kill. That's 2 gone on the Ravens. This push falling apart.
Chase.
Now they're moving forward. Sot bringing them to the Ravens' doorstep, trying to get the chase down. Needs a little more CC, slow. And maybe Vin finally forced to use the beads, forced to use the cauldron. And is he going to be forced to use a little more? Riptide from Hurry. Gets the disengage for him and the mid laner.
Zap's turn.
At this point, what can you do? He's got the ult, he's got the beads, he's got his Aegis. And it seems like he might just be out with the healing from Hurry.
Great disengage there from the Highland Ravens, trading back and forth. Hurriwind using those Riptides defensively. Zapman staying just in range, but on the edge of the team fight, throwing out the shifting sands, slowing things down, distracting the Oni Warriors. Had access to both relics and ultimate, so even when the slows are there, they don't stick. The Highland Ravens maybe don't break the base, but they at least maintain a few more lives. If their deaths are desynced anymore, if Zapman goes down towards the tail end of that fight, I mean, that's just a guaranteed Fire Giant over to the Oni Warriors. But here's the thing, Gore. I haven't seen the Oni Warriors win out on a team fight in neutral territory just yet. And I think it's pretty clear where it goes wrong for the Highland Ravens. Scream doesn't land his abilities, puts himself in the back line. Windfire Wheels essentially delivers himself on a silver platter, and it still takes maybe 15 seconds of 5 members of the Warriors to actually knock him down. We'll see how well the Warriors fare in neutral territory. I think if you can have Panitom play that solo agent role, split up the team fight a bit, hunt down Zapman, that's one way in.
Could be the opener. Looking at Panitom, he's not in this fight right now. It's over on left side speed buff. Ravens, 5 around the Fire Giant. Warriors, 4 around their back camps, stretching to the blue buff. And so they've got a little bit of wiggle room. Luckily for them, and the Warriors that is that they have not needed Panitom so urgently that he's been pulled away from farming. So he's been able to get a wave, a buff. I will admit I'm a little surprised to see him going back towards left, but again, they're not in any rush right now, Mifflin, so they've got plenty of space to work with.
And Panitom's really close to have enough gold to finish just about whatever item he wants. Sell up that recipe. 2,000 in pocket as of now. Maybe he's got eyes for something like Hydras. Maybe he wants a little bit more tankiness. We'll have to see. Highland Ravens won't know until now Haddix spots him. That Panitom's not on that right-hand side. Haddix not exactly threatened by the Susano either, though. So if it does come down to a 1v1 in mid, just favor the soul laner, the Highland Ravens. Good deal of respect from both these teams now. Fire Giant unpulled. Panitom's still hovering left.
Haddix has done exactly what he needed to. Oxform, double knockup, forces Pegon half health immediately. Oh my god, Zap's damage! It wasn't just Pegon, he shredded through Sot as well, forces him to fall back to healing, keeps him alive, but you're losing Netrioid now. Haddix, he is not content, he goes in for 1, he's looking for a double. Good blink from Sot, at least stops that, but you don't need the fire when you've already got 2 kills. The backline is gone. Panitom has been nowhere in this fight, and the Ravens knock down the tier 2 on right. Mifflin looks like they're going for a Phoenix. Again, no Fire Giant to facilitate them. Depending on how long this takes and depending on whether a defense can happen, We're either talking Enhanced or we're talking Titan. Phoenix down. They've got 3 to try and fight on the Warriors. Try to defend and stop this game from ending. Damage needs to be there. Right now, Relic's good for the mid laner. Vin has been the problem, and Vin remains the problem, but the Warriors go in, separate a little bit. Genetics, SOT, take about half their health bars. So do the Ravens. And it seems like just the 3 are going to be enough to hold on to this game a little longer.
Turns out a 3 or 4 man ultimate from Genetics. And no ultimates available for the Highland Ravens, not exactly conducive to a Titan siege. Now it's the Ravens on retreat, but the Oni Warriors on respawn. Can prevent those backs. They're going to have to fall pretty far back before they can get back to base. Fortunately, Haddix, having made it back and has teleport, will be able to immediately get back and involved should the Fire Giant be pulled here. The Warriors can't chase much further than that. But they might be able to pull it. I think, if anything, coin toss or force a fight before the Highland Ravens are allowed to reset, and seems to be the case here for the Warriors. Fire Giant reset, SOT isolated, and he might be dead.
Well, he's up in the air, not taking a lot from Scream. It's the follow-up that he needs to be worried about. Healing's going to be there, but great walls again from Hurry. Lock him in and get the kill to boot. Pagon, pressure, feeling it from Venenu, who's applying as much as he can, chases him down, and gets his 8th. It's 8-0 and 9. It's a double kill for Zap. It's Panitom alone versus the Ravens. And again, who needs a Fire Giant when you are playing this well? The Ravens march it down mid. They've got the fire minions. And Mifflin, barring just a miraculous play from Panitom, they are going to take game 1 here and make us question whether or not you know ball.
It's no longer a question, Gore. I just don't. The Highland Ravens. They met the Oni Warriors at their own game. A scrappy battle from minute 1 till minute done. And the Highland Ravens won out on every single one of those trades. The only time I felt like the Oni Warriors had solid control was that first rotation of buffs when Panitom sweeps through everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was always 1 for 1 or 1 for 2, and the 2's always going to the Ravens.
Yeah, there was a moment where we saw like a 2 for 1 and then a 1 for 2 and then a 2 for 1, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we're just trading them back. Except then it was 2 for 1 and then 2 for 1 and then 2 for 1. All of a sudden the Ravens, like you said, just finding more of those kills. Vin can't be allowed to play Baba Yaga again. I think if he's going, 8-0 and 9 and had to use beads like twice, probably don't want him on that.
Here's the thing about Baba Yaga, though. You don't really want anybody playing that. It seems like that god is just really good right now. Not exactly suffering for damage, not exactly suffering for defense either. Incredibly survivable, has a standard lead, and good poke. I can keep going. She's got it all.
But like you said, that was even like the tier 2. That was problem number 2.
That's
problem
right.
number
That's
1
on page 2.
was Scream. And they dealt with him a few times, right? Got the death column up there. Unfortunately, the kill column and the assist column just kept racking him up, and lining him up. Scream looks good. The Ravens look good, and they are now up 1-0 over the Warriors. We'll find out because we've got a long road ahead of us. What happens next right after this?
I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. When you lose control, it's so hard to hold. All this weight up on my shoulders. I hate to say I told you so.
Take 10 steps back, close your eyes and listen, and look from somewhere different. I know that I've been slipping. I fold my tie-in ribbon to hide my scars. That's how it starts. Ooh, I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. When you lose control, it's so hard to hold. All this weight up on my shoulders. I hate to say I told you so. Yeah, told you so. Yeah, I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. I don't wanna be around when you lose control. When you lose control, it's so hard to hold. All this weight up on my shoulders. I hate to say I told you so. Hate to say I told you so. Hate to say I told you so.
About time it got interesting around here. It's okay to be impressed. Wiki wiki. Don't worry, I gotcha.
That's right, we've partnered once again with Advanced GG for yet another shaker and flavor combo, this time themed around everyone's favorite god, Maui. So make sure you go over to advanced.gg/smite and pick up your Maui's Tropical Splash flavor or the Maui Shaker, both available through the Advanced GG site. If you buy them individually, make sure you use code SMITE to get 10%, or buy them in a bundle where you already will be able to get them at a nice discounted price. Thank you so much for Advanced GG for partnering once again for yet another great shaker combo. Honestly, the double blue with the white caps, the first white cap top that we actually have on those. If you look at them, it just makes the whole collection look really nice and neat. And one thing that looked really nice this time is this first game for the Highland Ravens, Trelly. Because, man, Venenu, just felt untouchable on the Baba Yaga. We heard it during the cast. Says, man, you got to get through Scream first to be able to deal with this Highland Ravens team. And Scream was constantly diving into the backline, getting these Windfire wheels. But then once you got through Scream, here's like a 7-0 Baba Yaga just raining hell through this house. It just felt like the Oni Warriors didn't have an answer, one, for the front line, and then two, if they did manage to break through, you still had to deal with the backliners of the Ravens.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot of other teams are starting to figure out just how impactful this Baba Yaga pick can be, and not even impactful, I think unkillable is the issue, right? The fact that you can build Prophetic Cloak so easily then stay so far back but still have this much burst damage was definitely an issue. I think that Hurriwind was playing on point, as you can expect from the Yemoja. 1-1-16, just a picture-perfect stat line, I guess, you know, the one death. But besides that, exactly what you would want from your support, as well as just, you know, setting up for the team and keeping them nice and healed, I think was also a big deal. Top off with, as we've said, Scream just being on point, setting up for his team. Sure, he died a lot, but I think as a Naja, you're going to put yourself out of position with Windfire Wheels. It's what your team can do with you being out of position in the sense of following up on that ultimate, and that's exactly what they did. I was really impressed with the Highland Ravens this time around, and honestly, the Oni Warriors going a bit over-aggressive is the way I would call it, right? They are able to make these plays sometimes and just, you know, get away with it because of mechanics diffs alone, but that was not the case this time around. Pegon was dashing in a lot. Panitom going for invades that he really was not able to get away with. Didn't really seem like they were all on the same page, as from what I could see.
I think it's not very often that we can, you know, maybe glean the mentality or the playstyle of what a player wants to do just from a recipe alone, but I looked down at Scream and he had a sturdy stew that game. As a jungler, you're typically getting like bow or gooseberries, maybe the party punch after the buffs have come through. It's rare that we see a jungler go for something like sturdy stew, so maybe Scream recognizing, I'm a Naja, my job is to get in the back line, deal my damage, and then hopefully whenever I land, they're dead, or just sit here and try and soak up a little bit of extra damage or CC my way.
Yep.
Gets that sturdy stew, allows to give extra protections over to his team to keep that dive going. So interesting play style here from the Highland Ravens in game number 1. We'll see if that keeps up in game 2. Picks and bans between the Ravens and the Warriors. And really the first, we'll say like 15 minutes of that game, really looked like an arena match. I think we're at 20 some odd kills in 15 minutes at that point. And then the pacing kind of slowed down a bit once we started getting the Pyromancers online, once the Gold Fury started becoming a threat, Fire Giant. The pacing as far as number of kills went down a little bit, but it still felt like it was that momentum driver seat for the Highland Ravens all throughout that stage of the game. Even when the Warriors were finding good picks, Scream was able to constantly keep going back and forth. Zapman really was able to dominate that lane, not only just against Netrioid, but had that lead going in to these fights around Beacon, around these objectives. Sure, Netrioid was able to get the one still around Gold Fury, but even after that, I mean, it just felt like it was all Zapman from that duo lane. Quickly, we roll through the bans once more. These two teams very quick on what they want to ban, and I think the Oni Warriors' adaptation was banning all 3 of the problematic children of the Ravens in game 1.
Yeah, just ban as much from the composition as they are legally allowed to, right? Just take away the Yemoja, the Naja, and the Baba Yaga, which does, of course, leave open that Camazotz, which has still been a very impactful pick, whether that be in the jungle or sometimes over towards the mid lane or even solo. But the Oni Warriors are going to start just with that duo lane. Grab the Olorun and the Khepri. That's going to be some pretty great pressure. Just early wave clear, early buff clear, as well as your team fight, which is going to be pretty impactful. The Ravens go with the Cthulhu, and if you're locking that, it's almost zero chance you don't lock in the Morrigan right after. Yeah, I was gonna say this. It's almost troll to not pick the Morrigan in that slot. So they kind of have to go for that one. Not only do you have that great transformation with the Cthulhu, but Camazotz sitting right there next to it. Pretty disgusting top 3 there for the Highland Ravens as well.
Double bat, double Eldritch Being from the deep. Highland Ravens top 3 is already seemingly a nightmare to have to play against, and that's even taking away of what was banned away from them, what looked so good in game 1. You know, the Baba Yaga looked great for Venenu. I think 8-0-10 was his final slash line. Scream, we mentioned, while his slash line wasn't the best, his impact on the Naja was so potent. And then Hurriwind, the 1-1-16 Yemoja, had 10,000 healing throughout that game, really was able to keep his team alive. So what other dual lane do we see from the Highland Ravens? We'll have to wait till after the ban phase to see what goes through, because Oni Warriors also still need their next pick. Switching up their dual lane, though, it was, I believe, a Sol and Cerberus prior. now an Olorun Khepri, so still sticking with the double magical lane, but moving to a different magical ADC, and a god that, in Khepri, one that's worked very well for genetics. I believe one of the few players who's still going towards the Khepri, but one of the best performing players on the Khepri amongst the supports, and giving him a whole lot of safety over for himself, for his teammates over in the dual lane. Jingwei Hover. Now, if we do see this locked in, I think it opens a couple of questions as to where these two hunters get played out between, but we don't have to worry about that because it's no Jingwei, instead it's Erlang Shen.
Yep, a little bit of extra auto attack damage, another Kinsai user to try and shred through the Cthulhu, as well as just AoE CC to try and track down the Morrigan. All good things so far for the Warriors. If you are the Highland Ravens, you gotta try and focus out things that are gonna deal with Cthulhu, but also deal with the Morrigan, I think. Anything that can really close gap and make her life miserable is something you want to try and avoid. It's like the set will be the Highland Ravens' choice. Whereas the Oni Warriors, they're more so focused on that dual lane. They know that this Cthulhu is not going to be playing support anytime soon, so why not look towards some of those Hurriwind selections like the Ares, like the Alice. Definitely going to be a smart look. The Terra, I still think could be something that Hurriwind goes to. I mean, it gives you a little bit of extra CC as well as that healing you've been talking about, but I haven't seen it too often. It is. I think Terra is one of those supports that you can pretty confidently take in the bottom, like the bottom 2 picks, just because you're gonna be able to commit to a good bit of CC, your team fight as well as healing, but almost never grabbed in the top 3. Just not valuable enough to try and focus it out.
Do you see Ram for the Warriors with an Olorun already selected? I mean, we saw the Jingwei hovered and switch over to Erlang Shen, so already in my mind I was thinking, okay, so which of these two do you throw in mid, or is this potential the Oni Warriors saying maybe they want to throw one of these two over in the solo lane? Still to be determined once that 5th selection does come through. But if these aren't if neither of these hunters are going to the solo lane, which would you prefer having in the mid lane? Would you rather have the Olorun in mid, control the middle of the battleground with that sanctified field, or do you think maybe it's not as safe for him to be over in that little spot?
I personally prefer the Olorun, but no one plays it there. Like, if it ever is this double ADC composition, Olorun is going to be in the long lane. It is just very rare to put Olorun in mid, despite the fact that he's got decent wave clear and that ult is going to cover pretty much the entirety of mid lane to get you out of trouble. It's just not something that really anyone looks towards, so pretty sure Pegon takes the Rama, despite the fact that it may just be better elsewhere. Finishing off that composition with an Odin. What happens if you can't kill a Cthulhu and he's chasing down your team? Just put him in a cage. He can't get out. Maybe that's the idea from the Oni Warriors, and just something that Sod has been, I mean, just disgusting on, right? This is a god that wreaked fear into just everyone's heart when Sot was consistently going towards this Odin. It constantly was banned out from him, and for good reason. He was just unkillable at times when he was playing this consistently, so it looks like they're trying to go back to that.
And then it will be a Ymir Ishtar for the Highland Ravens. Ymir picked after 4 gods, which struggled to be able to get around that wall. Odin, the only one who can have immediate access to get beyond the wall unless you have your blink available, something like that, maybe for the Erlang Shen at that point. So, 2 team compositions in reality. I mean, the Camazotz can jump out of the cage. The Ishtar, I think, can use Jolt onto a target and then be able to backflip out, but it's a very situational dash to be able to do so.
It has to be very well placed. The
So
person, not the Jolt.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess technically both would need
technically
to be, but
both.
So it's 2 compositions that both struggle with getting around walls. I mean, the benefit that the Highland Ravens have against the Odin is that you can break down the cage if there's enough people around in quick succession. Opposite end, you probably are relying on Phantom Shell for really both of these squads. So who do you think kind of wins out on draft kind of just immediately at the forefront? For my money's worth, the top 3 of the Highland Ravens plus the Ymir against that comp. I think it doesn't matter what you throw Zapman on at this point. For what I would put, I feel like the Highland Ravens win out there. Do you kind of agree with that, or do you think the Oni Warriors with their kind of bottom 2 selections have really kind of brought this back for them?
Well, it's very easy to just look at, the Ymir and say, oh, you can just cage the Olorun, cage the Khepri, just cage everyone, right? Or wall them, I should say. Sorry, there is a cage in the game, so that makes no sense. Wall them off. And that's all well and good, but as we've seen many, many times with the Ymir, if your initial wall and freeze isn't getting that kill, isn't having your whole team follow you up, what happens is you get turned on immediately. What happens when Sanctified Field gets turned and used on you offensively? That is certainly something the Oni Warriors have access to as well. So Hurriwind's going to have to watch his positioning. He's going to have to hold on to freeze as much as possible, as well as that wall, to try and make sure he's not out of position. And if they can do that, of course, we know how disgusting the Ravens team fight could be. A double Cthulhu, a double Camazotz. Heck, I'm thinking Ven could even Odin cage at some point. It's not like the Oni Warriors even appreciate that. So there's a lot of different options there. I'm never worried about the Highland Ravens team fight, but their early game as well as just positioning for these Guardians may come into question.
So it could be maybe a difficult early for the Highland Ravens, but a devastating late game to be sure. Can the Highland Ravens go up 2-0 over the Oni Warriors, or we'll see the set tied back here in game number 2? Let's jump right in with the casters.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly, as we do jump into game 2. And Mifflin, one thing I was actually talking to Inbound on the desk about earlier was the fact that whenever we start to see Olorun, Sanctified Field's doing well, usually that means there's a world where Camazotz, Cthulhu are going to be pretty happy. And we not only do we get both of those, we also get Venenu on the Morrigan, who can become either of those. So it really feels like if Netrioid gets to a point in this game where he is relying on Sanctified Fields, maybe it's bad news bears. And the chat seems to think that so. From a nice 69 in the beginning for the Warriors in game 1, now all the way to a 42. That has dropped catastrophically for him.
It has, and here's the thing. I do not love the Oni Warriors comp into the Highland Ravens comp.
Yeah.
Every day I stray further and further from knowing ball, man. It's
well, no, in this
starting
case,
to
I think it
bother
would
me.
mean that you didn't know ball maybe like team-oriented, overarching, but like in-game, like you know ball.
Okay.
Yeah. You're just
I don't feel better. That didn't make me feel better.
Man.
That made me feel just as bad, equally bad.
What was it you said that got them to imply that you don't know ball? And I guess for the Ravens to maybe prove it in game 1.
I said that it was going to be a 3-0.
That could still be true. I think it's who you said that maybe is the difference, but it could still be true. Who knows? Maybe you know ball, just not quite the way you anticipate. But Mifflin, what do you not like about it? First off, I'm surprised to see Ram in mid, which caught me off guard. But
hey, that was one of the things.
Oh, that's one of the things. Cool. I'm nailing it over here. Maybe I know what you know about ball.
Right. So
or I know a
neither of us have
subset
any.
of what you know.
Yeah, neither of us have it at all. I feel like Erlang Shen has proven himself to be just 20% of the time effective, so I feel like low return odds on that selection in general, but especially into a composition that has as much CC as the Highland Ravens. And we've seen Hurriwind play the Ymir into Erlang multiple times now on purpose. It's, oh, Nitros Blessing, separated, buddy. There's a giant ice wall. Good luck interacting. Oh, you're trying to turtle form out of here? Ice wall. And it just makes it so difficult to maneuver the early game. That said, that can be turned on its head if Panitom gets involved. But I think that's all he's got. Ooh. Good pluck from Genetics. Secures the kill for the support. All right. Erlang Shen off to a good start, but it's not the first kill that gets it all done. It's what you do with it. But Ymir falling behind early, that's similar to an Ares falling behind early, or an Erlang Shen himself. Can make it very difficult now for Hurriwind to get his feet back under him. Barring all of that, it's the double Cthulhu, I think. Just having such a immobile backline between Ram and Olorun into two massive behemoths, monolithic CC champions, just running you down. That could be a concern as well.
Well, right now, Sot is in concern. He has a leap and a shield, so he's going to be just fine, though. It is, I mean, you had kind of mentioned it. We haven't seen it in a while, but the double Cthulhu is just devastating in team fights. And so I think for Panitom, like you said, needed to come online, get something on the board. That kill goes over to Genetics, so it's not exactly the lead Panitom would want, but a lead's a lead nonetheless. But like you said, it's dialing it up a little bit more than that, right? Being able to find more than just the one. Because otherwise, if you enter the team state or team fight state, I'm kind of with you. I feel like the Cthulhu, man, what did we there were 5 different names for
Cthulhu, Cthulhu.
I like Cthulhu.
Cringe comp.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it, man. Whatever you want to call it.
I'll go with Cthulhu.
I like that. I don't remember which one. I felt strongly about this once upon a time.
Yeah, you were, and you know what? We can trust on that always. That you will have a strong opinion. Sometimes.
What a non-sentence.
Yeah, that meant nothing. Right now, it's just up to the Warriors. See, I'm watching for their pace of game, mainly because it is, like you said, it's been a little bit of walls, it's been a little bit of control overall. Duo lane feels very important. Shield buff goes the way, I believe, of the Warriors. But it is going to lay on the ground there for now, so maybe ends up going over towards the Ravens. That one's always an awkward colored one.
I think the Warriors got it, I believe.
Just not picking it up for genetics. And this is going to be a little bit, again, maybe maybe my brain's just having a reset, dude, because last game was so fast. And this game, nobody wants to fight. And I guess that's kind of one part of the comps, but the other half of it, it feels like the Erlang Shen is almost, I want to say, out of place with the rest of what's on the board. You had mentioned the taunt later, but I'm not looking at Pegon on a Ram, you know, rolling forward at level 3 to help get kills. Yes, it happened in the duo lane. That was pretty nice, but like genetics, the Khepri, the Olorun, it feels like there's a lot of pressure on Panitom to make the early game happen, and then everybody else does the team fight thing.
Yeah, late game he's going to become a worse Athena in that it's his confound is on like a minute cooldown as opposed to an 8-second one with CDR. But otherwise, up until that point, has high potential to punish a good deal of the targets here. SOT.
No way. Yeah, that out of hell.
Yep.
And that's sometimes all you need to... Haddix used his ult as well, and honestly, unnecessary, but it gets the job done. Now you don't have your ults, though. What can you do on the other side? Taunt, pin, autos are good, but you've got to go in the 1v2 of Panitom. Yeah, he's going to take it. He's going to find a return kill onto Scream. Vin rotates in, so Panitom's not going to chase any further. Haddix, with no mana, gets to live to see another day, and they buy some time for Sot to get back in lane.
So Panitom staying present on map, getting active early on, like that for the Erlang Shen. Oni Warriors, though, I think need to continue playing through this pressure. And one of the main benefits of a double hunter composition, barring just dealing with a singular Cthulhu is a lot easier when you've got two of them, is the ability to roll through these neutral objectives. The Oni Warriors are already playing with pressure in the duo lane, so should be able to get Netrioid into a defensive position around that Gold Fury. Next time you send Zapman back to base, or maybe you send Hurriwind back, and then just have Pegon rotate over, play on that gold, threaten the DPS, force rotations in. If you can enforce a conveyor belt rotation on the Ravens when they have to walk in piecemeal one at a time, an absolute ideal situation. But even looking at true coin toss scenarios, it's not as if the Ravens really have like a big damage secure. Best on map, and this might be true for the entire game, best on map secure might be a fully channeled Shards of Ice from Hurriwind. Otherwise, maybe the Dark Aspects from Ven, but even then, that's close. If Hurry builds a singular damage on him, he's got it. But that is concerning, considering he isn't exactly the highest range Guardian on the map. It won't be easy to just walk in and steal objectives and leverage that confirmed potential.
Well, taunt used by Panitom in the jungle. He's going to have some healing from that. Nothing too crazy. Keeping my eyes on Hurry. In fact, he might be in a little bit of trouble now. Panitom not only on the side of the map, but you have nowhere to go, and the damage is good. Netrioid does it this time without the jungler. Pin, well, it connects, but Zap's under tower, so they're not going to continue their chase. Warriors put another on the board, and it is all the duo lane right now. Panitom's 1-0-1, as is Genetics, as is Netrioid, and that's where a lot of the pressure's been.
Yeah, that combo we just saw, abduct into Sanctified Fields, that's never not going to kill Hurriwind. There's not a point in the game where Hurriwind's going to be like, yeah, I can just ignore that. No, yeah, no problem. That is incredibly stifling CC. The root afterward to make sure that second ability from Olorun does all of its damage too. I mean, we saw Zapman try his best to peel out, throws out the ultimate, but even that stun, not enough to buy time for his support to walk himself out of there. Oni Warriors dual lane, I mean, they are just firmly in control.
Doing exactly what they want to do. Up into the sky goes Pegon. He's looking to try and find some control of his own. Hits his shots and hits his autos, but unfortunately there's two Camazotz standing in front of him. And there's just not much you can do about that. Good transformation, maybe unnecessary, but gets the job done from Vin. And it helps pull the Ravens. Again, 1 kill back in their favor. Gold-wise, Mifflin, farm is the Warriors. They've been getting more of the neutral objectives, and they've got 2,000 already 8 minutes in. So they've had presence on map, and if Panitom can find this kill onto Scream, no, the leap over the taunt prevents that from happening. Maybe it could have been a little more. Maybe it's still gonna happen. He stops the back with the blink.
Know how to fight.
But this time he does completely fall back. No re-engage from Panitom, and Scream makes it back to base.
I mean, Panitom, even just playing on the left side of the map there, prevents Scream from rotating over and defending the purple buff, which I believe is likely what that Camazotz would have wanted. Just takes a little bit too much damage on route in. So, another invade over to the Oni Warriors, getting aggressive on the left. Another threat of kill on the Hurriwind. Abduct is a death sentence.
It is. Is it a death sentence without the Sanctified Fields, or just with the Sanctified
with Sanctified
okay.
Fields?
So you have to drop both, which admittedly, and you know, we've talked about this, Olorun can feel a little endangered if he doesn't have ult and no beads. 30 seconds, now 25, left on the beads. So maybe a small window where, oh no, Netrioid would feel unsafe if he had to play aggressively, but if they're playing aggressively, I feel like the safety is on the other foot. And that brings us, Mifflin, to something I was going to mention to you a little earlier. And you had kind of already said this, but Ymir is one of those gods that is prone to have some stinker games where just, you know, he comes in, you could hit your freezes, you can hit your walls, but you also might be 0-8 and just not have any impact on the game. So far, Hurry's in that middle ground. He's 0-2.
3 levels down.
3 levels down. All it takes is one more, and suddenly it maybe collapses underneath him.
Yeah, you really want that Ymir to be allowed to be the aggressive factor. When we had seen him play it last, it was Berserker's Shield in second slot, involved face-punching constantly. Now
levels,
essentially forced into going towards Silver Talisman in second slot because of the double magical lane. But I'm not sure he's even allowed to walk up here.
Well, he's going to try. Freezes, walls. And the wall was more to stop genetics than to stop anything else. Fury, easily controlled by the Warriors. They extend that lead. Mifflin, if the first game is a action-packed shootout of a movie, this one has been about as documentary as you could get for it. Hurry, maybe going to be in some trouble here. Takes a lot of damage. Sanctified Fields, they're going to have to choose between Zap and Hurry. Good freeze. And it keeps them going for a little bit, but only a little bit. Meanwhile, they do find a kill. The Ravens, that is, onto Pegon to at least turn back some of that damage. It's in mid one more time. And it is going to be Scream and Venenu combining for that. Zap's in a little bit of trouble. Has Scream coming over to make this a 2v3, but it might just be a 1v3. Zap taunted in and killed off. Now it's Scream alone. Vin slowly rotating.
Is he dead
Does
too?
have the transformation,
Oh my
but they're
God.
just marching in by themselves. A conveyor belt of death for the Ravens. And it is now 6 kills to 3 with the Warriors running this game.
Yeah, Scream says, I'm allowed to play aggressive, guys. I've got my get-out-of-jail-free card. And Genetic says, what if I gave you a hug and you weren't allowed to channel it? And clearly that's the outcome. The Oni Warriors crushed that Camazotz on his aggression. Zapman, unfortunately, as well. Loses out on that dash, the positioning of Panitom. The Warriors really starting to control the pace now. I'm keeping my eyes on Netrioid. He is so far ahead. I think he really doesn't even need to rotate back towards Duo. Watch him on the map. This could be, and we've seen it a few times from the Oni Warriors, like a hyper early game Fire Giant play. That's what it indicates to me. Or perhaps just play for pressure. Shove down a tower in mid. I don't hate that.
Ymir, wall going to try to block some of that, but he gets plucked
Hurry,
immediately.
he's
Now
dead.
he might just be dead. Walls are up. And Mifflin, this is something I was going to, again, talk about earlier. Actually, it was the Genetics who I was going to mention because we were talking about Ymir walls at the time where it was like, oh no, there's no shell. What are they going to do? They're not worried about it. The Ravens, though, oh no, there's no shell. What are they going to do about it? Because it seems like now that Sat's gotten involved, that's just going to be easy lockdown for a lot of the players.
Yeah, I mean, there's just going to be a whole lot of threat here. I am hyper concerned that we're not even going to see a double Cthulhu. Like, it's just not going to have an opportunity to happen. This game is really starting to get out of control. 5,000 gold is around that red alert, alarm bells ringing point in the game, and it's come very early this time around. Keep your eyes on the Oni Warriors. They have got such a level control that I think 15 minutes would be the Fire Giant timer.
Well, Sot's in a little bit of trouble. The Claxons, like you said, are wailing.
Okay.
But the Ravens are at least getting one back in their favor, and they're going to find that control. Goes over to Scream, but it's a pretty large rotation just to kill the Odin. 4 of the Ravens make their way over there, but Mifflin again stifle the bleeding as best they can. I think, well, if they give us a moment, they might not. It looks like they're playing aggressive in mid. A lot of that depends on where exactly Hurry is. Maybe it's a play for the Pyro. And it will be. Bat out of hell.
Right. Misclick. Misinput. Calm down. Misinput.
Yeah, okay. We'll just ignore it and instead talk about the Pyromancer. Because it was pulled, or looked like it'd be pulled by the Ravens. Instead, yeah, the Warriors walk up and take that. Now, like you said, the alarms are starting to sound for the Ravens.
Oh, Hurry's
5,000 gold. Hurry. Yeah, he's just gone.
It's going to be happening.
God. I mean, well, there's 5 of them. I don't know why. It's not even that surprising. They're just going to continue this ball.
5 Warriors or
down.
5 deaths?
Oh my god, both. oh, I didn't even think about 5 kills for Panitom. It's just linked. It's everywhere. Mifflin, it might not be a 15-minute Fire Giant. It might instead be a 14.5-minute mid-Phoenix. Oh my god,
Goes up to the sky.
Warriors. You got to find those. Unfortunately for Pegon, invisibility is just a little too strong there. Keeps
That's dangerous.
Venenu
That's real
alive.
dangerous.
Haddix goes in. Haddix is getting shredded. This might not be a fight the Ravens want to take, but it might be one they have to, because I don't know that they have many options. They've lost their Phoenix. They've lost part of their base. And Mifflin, this game is skewing so out of control. 15 minutes in. And it might not be the FG, but it is maybe more than that for the Warriors.
Yeah, the Highland Ravens just don't have a front line right now, except for Haddix, who is getting his job done there. Surprised he's allowed to walk out after that dash in, but Hurriwind is wet paper, legitimately. Like there is not a whole lot he can do. We're seeing it pretty frequently. He'll step up, try and create some space, and then Genetics stands near him, and it's wall right in front of me. Please don't hit Abduct. I'll die. And unfortunately for him, Hurry has not caught one of those just yet.
Man, it feels like 15 minutes ago we were talking about how much we like the Ravens teamfight comp, but they aren't even allowed to get there.
And here's the thing, man. In Smite, the team fight is not guaranteed. The only portion of the game that is guaranteed on the battleground of the gods is the early. If you dominate early game hard enough, I don't care if you have 5 of best-in-class picks. If they're so far behind that you're not allowed to press your buttons, things like this can start to line up. That said, the Oni Warriors cannot afford to play with their food. The strength of this Highland Ravens composition is there. They just need to get to the point where they can start leveraging it once they get a little bit of itemization, some tankiness behind them. So the Oni Warriors, in keeping up their pressure, are doing the right thing. Knock down another tower. They had just previously collected the Oni Fury. Maybe even pressure into a tier 2 tower as well. The Netrioid's hovering around that Fire Giant. Maybe trying to call his team back towards him. But why slow down? There's very little defense here from the Ravens.
Wall from Hurry. Blocks some damage. But it's only a little bit of time, and these towers, man, they just don't matter. Double taunt from Panitom forces beats from Scream, and unfortunately for Hurry, there is no safe haven for a Ymir today. 0, 6, and 1. Luckily for the Ravens, that one doesn't result in a Phoenix. Unlucky for the Ravens, it is 7,000 gold. And a team that has all the power in the world to try and knock down a Fire Giant right now, but instead they're setting up an ambush. They lose their tier 2 on left. And Myth, honestly, that actually puts a lot on the board for the squad there, just in terms of helping alleviate some of the pressure and give them a win condition, if they can sustain. But now, finally started, 17 minutes in, Fire Giant.
Whoa.
Will the Ravens try to fight this? Or maybe more accurately, will the Warriors play with their food a little? It's Pegon. Just a couple more shots is all it takes. He has the ult, but I don't think you need it. Yeah, good CC from the squad. And you put down Scream. Now, who cares about fire? Let's go for the Phoenix.
Right side bird exposed. Slow rotation from the Highland Ravens, and Your double Cthulhu won't be there. Ven's been caught out by Panitom towards the center map, just now starting his back.
Well, there's going to be a single Cthulhu, at least a little bit. Haddix taking a lot of damage. Again, ults that has still not been used. Genetics holding on to his. Pegon, Panitom, all still strong. Panitom with a loop around. Maybe could have set something up. Sanctified Fields already gone. And Mifflin, that is a actually solid defense from the Ravens, just in the sense that they get to keep it, and they might even be able to maintain this long enough to get their mid-Phoenix back up. And like you said, if the Warriors take too long, yes, the gold lead's still going to be there, and it's still very much applicable. But the Ravens will slowly be able to fight their way back into this.
Overzealous siege attempt there from the Oni Warriors. After pick on Scream, I understand the idea. Maybe we can just go ahead, take that down that right side bird, especially considering they had knowledge of Ven's positioning. But Fire Giant would have been absolutely confirmed. You know for a fact the Ravens aren't stepping up in what is essentially a 3 versus 4 on the right-hand side of the map in neutral territory. So I think had they just elected to go for the objective, considering they had already broken the base in mid too, so mid-Phoenix weakened, would have likely simplified their game. Oni Warriors hesitant on the Fire Giant pool. Still have not grouped up for it, which I find very surprising. Even in just grouping up and allowing the Highland Ravens to take the fight there, assuming there's a double Cthulhu transformation, I think we're still early enough in the game and enough of a lead on the Oni Warriors that it's not quite to the point that the Highland Ravens are just going to start auto-winning on some of these engagements. Instead, it's a Gold Fury pool. I mean, these are wins, but they're small wins. 20 minutes in, and it feels like it has been longer considering how much the Warriors have gotten done. But if we get to like 26, 27 minutes, things are going to become concerning for them.
I mean, you got to think about it. That was a 14.5-minute mid-Phoenix. And after that, it hasn't really been a whole lot. It's been 5.5 minutes.
They really don't want to pull fire at all.
And
they're not even heat checking it. There's no wards on the right-hand side. There's no like deep wards on the Raven side of the map
and
either.
I'm not wrong. Like that feels weird, right?
It is very strange
because it's kind of messing with me. Like the pace is not what it feels like it should be. They are going to go maybe for the mid Phoenix. I don't know if they can get this the way they did earlier. They do have some decent burn, but that's the problem. The Ymir wall from Hurry. He might be 0-6. He might be down 3 levels. But you put some points into it, and it's going to be enough to block the damage, buys time, and it gets Scream back over here. Puts Haddix in a position of power as well. No ults used. Well, either squad just yet. Those Sanctified Fields could be the big difference maker. The Ymir wall helping out. Maybe a little too soon there from Hurry. Minions come in, give some openings over to the Warriors. One more auto, and they manage to weave it in, and they're going to go for the fight. It's Hurry who is the main target, but deep into the side goes Panitom. They're just going to go clean up the Ymir. Couple snipes from Pegon, and that is an open right Phoenix to go for.
Right side Phoenix. It'll be going slower. This one's full HP. Transformation's there, but he's plucked before he can go into Descent to Madness.
Oh, Venenu, yeah, burned down as well. Double kill picked up for Panitom. And now he might be able to chase down a little bit more, especially with the trick, unfortunately, turned immediately. Haddix can't do too much. And they're going to be able to put the pressure on. Low health bars for the Warriors, but Mifflin, we were questioning the pace. They dialed it back up. 2 Phoenixes this time. Again, sans Fire Giant.
I mean, it really is just Hurriwind can't hang right now. 0-7-1. Tries to create some space, steps up for his first actual ability rotation that isn't putting a wall in front of the Phoenix. Lands a 3-man freeze, I believe, and then immediately is punished with death afterward. That was the highest degree of punishment. From there, the Oni Warriors break the base once more. Mid-Phoenix is already weakened, so 50% the best they could hope for on the Ravens. And then in a 4v5 on right, Ven maybe able to turn that engagement on its head had he been allowed to get into Descent into Madness, but transforms into Cthulhu, telegraphed, Genetics grabs him with the abduct, and he's just about dead by the time he goes into the big form. Now with the base broken even further, the Oni Warriors take a look at their PEMDAS once more, say, okay, well maybe Fire Giant was supposed to come first, but it doesn't matter if I arrive at the same answer or the right answer, regardless. Highland Ravens, not a snowball's chance in hell. They step up to this one. Fire Giant to all 5, Pyromancer put a bomb in pocket. There's only 2 structures remaining. Pretty easy to guess where the Oni Warriors are going.
Yeah, it's rare, it feels like sometimes, for a late-game Fire Giant to be as cut and dry as this. they don't have many options other than the left tier 2. And the only option that they're going to have that can maybe rival it is 40 seconds away, and that's that Oni Fury. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Ravens, and right now, Mifflin, I think we have to, 4 towers that are left standing on the Warriors. Zap was able to push down the tier 1 and tier 2 on left earlier. But it's all about defense, and we've talked about this comp being good at team fights, but last time around, Vin got picked before he could even do anything. Most of his health gone before the transformation even completed. So are they able to withhold maybe even around the tier 2, or do they have to think around the Phoenix? Right now they have to think around Scream. Bat out of hell, forced. Again, opposite there of Sot's ult. And so with the tier 2 going down and Scream forced back, it is going to be around this Phoenix. They have to mount a defense. Right now they're going to hold on to it a little bit. Again, Fire Giant might make this a little bit quicker and easier for the Warriors.
There
and
it
they're
goes.
going to burn it like it's nothing. I mean, Mifflin, this, again, Game 1 has been an absolute chokeout. Game 1 was a brawl. Game 2 has been a chokeout. Scream, just gone. The Warriors, they don't need any pomp or circumstance. They have just been in control every step of this game.
Now it's just about putting the final nail in the coffin and working your way in towards that Titan room. 30 seconds until Scream's back in the land of the living. The Fireman wave leaking in towards mid. Right and left pushed up a bit, though. Going to be a while on those waves.
Well, Sot drops the cage, and immediately you're going to have some Sanctified Fields thrown out on both sides. Finn transforms into the Olorun. They're looking to defend to Haddix. Can't make it back to the Fountain. Panitom
That's crazy.
Picks up 1, and they're still gone. Scream back in 9. And they're going to need him if they want to get anything done. Hurry. Unable to do anything. Goes for the freeze. Finds a little bit. The Titan's getting low. The damage is there. And the numbers are good. Warriors tie this thing up and a just controlling choke out of a game 2.
It's an early death for Hurriwind that results in 7 or 8 more. Very difficult to separate those engagements when your frontliner isn't exactly a frontliner anymore. That was a very ineffective Ymir game. Double Cthulhu, a strong composition to be sure. We've seen it, I believe, once so far this phase, and it was dominant in the team fights. Didn't really get to see it in this game. Early game dictated the entire game. It's really the only portion that both these teams got to play. And the Oni Warriors, they were matched in those haymakers in those early game punching matches in Game 1. Game 2, couldn't quite see it from the Ravens.
Game 1 goes 9 rounds, right? You got these guys, their faces are getting bruised, bloodied. Game 2 was they saw an ant and stepped on it. Like it was just so much different from the war. And again, we were highlighting what the Ravens could do in a team fight. They never got there. Even when they did get there, they were just so far down. So they need to change some things up, and like you said, one thing's guaranteed, it's the early. That's where the Warriors win this one, and they just suffocate the Ravens out. It's 1-1. We'll see what happens right after this.
I can see
The Oni Warriors will not go down without a fight. Game number 2, a dominant bounce back from the Oni Warriors, now ties up the set 1-1. It's J-Mac Charlie joining me here on the desk. And Charlie, I've got a number for you.
Okay.
That number is 7. Now, do you know what that 7 is pertain to?
It's a lucky number?
It is a lucky number. That's also the number of games this phase that Genetics has gotten Khepri, and that's also the number of games that Genetics has won on Khepri this phase, seeming to find a pattern here when he gets this god. His team does really well, and given the dive style of composition that they had last time and the maybe non-threat towards the team, really didn't even need the ultimate from the Khepri. It seemed like every time that I looked up, this Oni Warriors team was so far ahead and winning a fight so handily that I don't know if Genetics even needed to hit the 4 button that game.
Yeah, but when he did, things also helped out, right? I think that as far as I saw, there was a lot of damage on the side of the Oni Warriors, and that's kind of one of the main counters to Cthulhu, right? If you just want to sit there and exist as this big, for lack of a better term, blob of HP, yeah, kitten-sized users are going to help out, and with that comes, I saw Panitom, I'm pretty sure 100-0 Haddix essentially by himself, just with kitten-size procs in the fountain. It was ridiculous. It was from like Titan to Fountain. He just ran him down, and it was death from there on out. That's just how much damage Panitom has been doing. You know, Sot's cages got a ton of value as well. I think this is actually the play. Yeah, let's see how much he does. It's only him. Yeah, no one else is helping that I can see.
Look at all those extra. Look at all those numbers. Yeah, that is an insane amount of just. Look, you get your in hand, you get the dog, and a kin size. That's your 3 values. But I kept seeing like 6, 7 numbers popping up every single time. He is just destroying Haddix with these in hands.
Yeah, and you see Ven look over like, I was going to transform into that guy.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll pick anyone else. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there was no Phantom Shells there. I believe Hurriwind picked up the Aegis, which I've seen a fair bit from these supports. It's more of a save yourself situation than save the squad. And in this case, there was a lot of the squad that would have liked saving. I don't think the end-all be-all was Phantom Shell. In reality, there was just a lot more DPS on the side of the Oni Warriors, and there wasn't much answer for that DPS, but you gotta think not getting trapped in the cage would have been a good start. At least I think that.
I think you're right. Getting stuck inside the cage where consistently only Scream is able to get out, it would force Venenu to transform into Scream to get out. Zapman would have to have good positioning and a god around him to be able to dash out of the cage in that case. So Highland Ravens, they just get run over in this game here. Mostly, I will say, at least by Panitom. This Erlang Shen all around the map. And in all honesty, one of the first times this phase that we've seen the Erlang Shen just almost strictly damage oriented. Usually we see a damage item into 1 or 2 defense, maybe get like a fourth item like Executioner, Kin Size. But Panitom goes Atalanta's Executioner, Kin Size, and then says a little defense probably wouldn't hurt, and goes for a Mantle of Discord at the end. 8-0 for performance. Great by him, and great by the Oni Warriors to bounce back. Can they keep this going in game number 3? We'll have to find out after we get through the picks and bans between the Ravens and the Warriors. Ravens going to take this first pick spot once more. Oni Warriors seems pretty content with the bans that they had in game number 2 up against the Ravens, which was the Baba Yaga, the Naja, and the Yemoja. Now for the Highland Ravens, what is their answer back? Chernobog, Amaterasu so far. Again, this is a team that got pick of the litter. I think banning the Athena is still a wise one to go, though I think Athena also just such a strong god. I'm legitimately shocked that Hurriwind doesn't, maybe it's that they don't think that the Athena is first pick value. I would probably disagree, considering she's currently sitting at like 94% pick ban rate and has a pretty good win rate herself, but instead going to ban that away so they can grab the Khepri for themselves, taking that one away from Genetics.
My guess is come practice time, the Highland Ravens decided on a few gods they wanted to prioritize, and Athena is just one that they didn't think they'd be getting too often, so they didn't practice on it as much, and now they just decided, hey, if we're in first pick, we're not letting it through. If we don't want it for ourselves, no way, we're giving it over to the Oni Warriors. But Khepri for the first pick. You said it, 7 games, 7 wins for Genetics, so probably don't let him have that god back. And the Oni Warriors say, hey, we'll take that Erlang Shen right back. Panitom, feed the hot hand. Definitely going to be a good look. Pair that with the Olorun. Not a bad answer back there for the Oni Warriors.
By the way, it's also now game number 80 for Genetics on the Khepri that he just played. Now tied for his most played god, along with Terra. As far as what Genetics has gone towards, we'll see what he likes to go towards after the ban phase, because it will be Khepri, Ratatoskr, Hades for the Highland Ravens, Oni Warriors, Erlang Shen, Olorun, and Set. So not going to be seeing the double hunter this time. It was a Ram mid for the Oni Warriors before for Pegon. Well, not going to see the Terra this time either, so top god, at least for number of play for Genetics, is going to remain the same, but still a wise ban to go that direction. When Genetics wants a god with a lot of control, Terra has been one of those go-to selections for him, so seeing it banned away by the Highland Ravens is a little bit of homework being done by that team, and maybe also just not wanting to deal with something that can kind of deal with this Khepri as well.
Yep, good idea. Olorun and Set. Pretty good auto attack core so far with the Oni Warriors. Pair that with the Erlang Shen we've already seen. It'll be difficult to deal with, but at the very least, the Highland Ravens have some good beats, burn, CC, and just all-around damage with the Ratatoskr and the Hades lock. You gotta go in to that last pick. Second to last pick, I should say. Hovering on her. Is it an ADC?
I think that's Genetics.
Don't think so.
If that's locked, I think it. Now,
is it a support? Could be.
You never know with this guy.
Oh, I think I might. If it gets locked
well,
in, I know what it is.
With this team, yes, this is very likely just going to be an on her support, assuming it gets locked in, but they might wait until they're up 2-1 or potentially before they go with the lock-in like that. So now hovering over the Fafnir for the time. We'll swap over to the Horus. Now, game 1, the Horus went into SOT's hands. Got a little bit bullied over in the side lane. Wasn't able to really get too much going for the Oni Warriors. Whether this goes back to SOT or to Genetics, to be determined. We did see a Cerberus paired alongside that, which put the Cerberus in Genetics' hands. So let's see what does get locked at the end to kind of maybe get a better idea of where this god is going. So now over for the Highland Ravens. The Baba Yaga is gone. That was something that worked really well for Venenu in game number 1, though Venenu himself has had quite the arsenal of gods to be able to go to, not only just in his competitive career, but even just in this phase has had quite a few options. Pele, Morrigan Le Fay, surprisingly Nuwa and Scylla, both kind of up on that list of gods that he's gone to a few times so far. Even the Morrigan up there. So I wonder then where the Highland Ravens go to kind of round out this composition.
Agni or Zeus. Those, I don't know, what that had no like actual analytical value. I just, for some reason, those two gods came to mind. Not so much for survivability, right? Zeus is going to get ran down by Erlang and Set, but Zeus kind of gets ran down by everyone, right? You kind of just want to drop your damage at your feet and hope your team's got your back, and Khepri probably will. Not a pick that Ven has gone to too much recently. He liked it back in the day when you could go a little bit tankier, and hey, with Breastplate in the meta, could be something he's looking towards, but definitely a pick that they have to think about with this. They also have to look towards Zapman's pick, which, I mean, I didn't hate the Ishtar. Speaking of immobile mages, gonna be the Hera. A pick that not really anyone but Dardes has been picking up, and honestly, Dardes hasn't picked it up in a bit, so has been sitting by the wayside for a while, but if anyone was going to bring an off-meta pick back in, excluding the Hera, because again, we got to give Dardes the credit, probably Ven.
Well, let's see how Venenu can perform on this one. Granted, he is in the top 4 of players who have played this god, but it's a very wide gap between numbers 2 through everything else to the number 1. As mentioned, Darda is really the only one consistently going back to this pick. And then an Anhur for the Highland Ravens. Maybe that potential threat scare of seeing the Anhur hovered on the other side by the Warriors. Like maybe we don't want you next to have that one. Or
that was genius.
Just something for Zapman to also be comfortable and be aggressive on. Will now pick that one up for themselves. But what is it that, you know, we see the Hera picked up many times with the Jade Dragons, but for the Highland Ravens, for what the composition that they've drafted, what does the Hera kind of add to this team?
I mean, that big burst damage, anything that can hit Olorun from a distance, as well as self-peel. And to be honest, that's a pretty decent matchup into the Raijin, so not something that Ven could have known, but still ends up working out for him. Can definitely get ran down by things like the Horus, the Set, and the Erlang Shen, but when you're ahead as Hera, those melee gods that have to close gap, they're walking into Argus, right? They're walking into a polymorph. There's a lot of CC that Hera has, kind of similar to Morrigan Le Fay, self-peel, if you have the cooldown. So not going to be a terrible look unless the Oni Warriors get that lead, in which case, yeah, you're going to have a survivability problem, and you're going to hope that Hurriwind is nearby just to keep that ultimate coming. The Oni Warriors. Looks like they're going to have plenty of CC as long as, you know, the Erlang ends up grouping up. But it's going to take a while for that to happen. You want some of that CC online, and you want your mages to be protected. Doesn't feel like that early game composition I'm used to from the Oni Warriors.
But for the Oni Warriors, and I have to highlight the Set once more here for SOT. Played it last week against the Gladiators. Looked really strong. Had a 2v5 defense with Pegon. Gets a pentakill the very next team fight.
Who was casting that?
I think that was some guy named Trelly.
All right, well, I think you were on it, too.
Yeah, I was there, too. I was just making sure that you knew that you were there.
I knew you were there.
All right, so we got each other's backs covered. But for this set, it's something that SOT has gone to a few times in the past before, not super consistently. He's played 4 games on it. Does have a 100% win rate on the pick itself. So for the Oni Warriors, this style of composition, what's maybe kind of the direction of this one? Because we saw from Panitom, he went very damage-oriented last time, went 3 damage before defense. You now have a set, and we've seen every single set is building pretty much the same way. You build Sigil, full damage, and maybe like a 6th item defense. So that kind of only leaves, at least genetics, going for a more defensive style of option right away, and into a heavy physical draft like this. How does that maybe kind of change up the team fight for the Warriors?
I mean, you asked me the direction, and in any Oni Warriors comp, the direction is forward, right? They will be W keying. That's the idea. I don't think there's too much thought behind it, right? You've got Raijin, who is going to be played like an assassin. We already saw Pegon just thunder crash in consistently. That is not an escape as far as they're concerned, right? We're going in. And then you just got the Warriors and the Assassin that are just going to follow up as well. It doesn't seem like there's much more thought process there. Are you using your CC for engage or for peel is the question, because if you don't, Netrioid's going to be left by himself, and that could become a problem.
We'll have to see. How the Oni Warriors can fend off in this game. Can they take it up to match point, or will the Highland Ravens fight back and take match point for themselves? Let's jump right into Game 3 with the casters.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly. That's right, it's Game 3, Myth. And we have seen two vastly different styles of gameplay so far. Again, it's Gore, Mifflin, aforementioned, and Doug, who's going to give us the window in. We saw an all-brawl fest through Game 1. 20 kills, 17 minutes, and that pace continued. And then we saw an absolute decimation, an undoing of the Ravens in Game 2. And so maybe we'll find the middle ground. Maybe we get one more of those. Chat seems to have swapped back over 64%. Now over towards the Warriors. And it's a little up in the air. Kind of curious, you vibing with chat this time? Do you think that 64% is well placed?
Man, I'm not the biggest Raijin solo guy. I know Fine OK has been on a tear with it recently, and if SOT with his infinite god pool certainly has played it as well, but that's got me a little bit concerned. Feels like the Highland Ravens have righted the ship a bit with their draft. Screammmmm back on something that's got high impact in the early game. Ratatoskr. Haddix playing one of the highest pressure soul laners as well. Should match up relatively well into SOT on this Raijin. Even take away one of Genetics' bread and butter with that Khepri pick. This is a very even game so far as draft is concerned. And it's not even as if one of these drafts is super heavily favored come late game. It's not as if one of them is overly favored in the early game. I think if anyone's going to play for pressure, it would likely be the Oni Warriors between Set and Erlang Shen. I don't really want to line up against that, especially as a Hera for the first 20 levels. Catch me 19 from now. 18, excuse me, as he has ticked to 2. Yeah, I'm with chat, but I'd say, little Oni Warriors slanted, little 2 Oni Warriors slanted on the boat.
Well, I know last game, I was honestly really feeling the Ravens going into it. All it took, I think, was honestly very simply, Mifflin, that one kill on left. And that's
he's going again.
Where it fell apart. That was a very early gank from Panitom to kill off that Ymir. Right now it's Genetics who's in a little bit of trouble. Maybe some more pressure over here. Shield buff's going to be coming up. You're going to see the junglers meet in the camp. Are they going to fight each other? Or are they going to just try to see who can 50-50? Right now it's going to be each other. Pin worked from Panitom onto Scream to help get some poke. Netrioid immediately applied some onto Zap, who's looking for damage over the wall. Kind of split between the 3 members of the Ravens, but the Warriors are driving factor of this fight. Not going to be anyone too low, at least not enough to find a kill. Scream forced to fall away, and shield buff will go over to Panitom.
Like how Netrioid played that fight there. Realized Zapman was going to start dealing some pretty serious damage to Genetics after that fracture was used. So just Netrioid says, well, maybe we've got high kill potential on a Hurriwind, but I really want to make sure Zapman isn't allowed to deal his own damage. So pokes him out, forces that defensive walk back to tower. Fortunately for the Ravens, though, Hurriwind survives nonetheless. Panitom a little bit slow to follow up on that CC as he was trying to knock down that shield buff just previously. So small skirmish on the left-hand side will leave the Oni Warriors with a small advantage, having grabbed the neutral for themselves. All the while, I believe Pegon able to knock out at least one of the camps on right. Should be able to grab this one on left, too. Yeah, Ven's not going to rotate in, but Pegon's not going to pull it, so it'll just stay.
Warriors right now. And we'd kind of mentioned this last time around. They only got the 1 kill. When we checked in, what was it, 8 minutes in? They had a 2,000 gold lead just because of the way they were farming. Something that the Ravens are going to have to be worried about. Because it was that pace of game, right? In Game 1, the way things go, and more specifically just the way the fights all kind of shake out, we get so many trades that are falling just slightly in favor of the Ravens. Just slightly. But after a while, just slightly suddenly becomes a big deal. We didn't really get to see them have much of a fight last game. You had mentioned it, we were talking about it, we didn't really get to see, or even see, a Khepri ultimate for a res, anything like that. And I think the Ravens need to figure out a way to kind of stall that farm game from the Warriors. It's only 400 right now, and so it's nothing too egregious. especially without a first blood bounty on the board. But you got to be careful, especially when you're looking for it. Shield buff ends up going over towards Netrioid. Beads, like you said, used by Zap. And aggression from Panitom forces beads even from Scream and into the sky for the Ratatoskr. So while, again, no Ravens die here, they use a lot of utility just to stay alive, and it might not even be the end. Argus even used just to stop Pegon from playing aggressive.
You know, all the while, another attempted gank from Panitom on left keeps the Highland Ravens in their tower. Oni Warriors clearly trying to keep that pressure up, and now it's Zapman isolated in the jungle. Hurry still has ult, though. This is low return for the Oni Warriors. Just seeing if maybe they could catch him unaware. Maybe if Zapman throws out that leap in a moment of ill decision-making would have lost his life.
Well, now he's in a moment of trouble. Yeah, he's going to use his ult. He's going to clear it out. Khepri res is there, and beautiful from Zap. Runs straight to the tower, gets the res proc, and finds himself safe back on his own side of the map. Good play by Hurry, good play by Zap, and a good read of the map.
Yeah, I was worried for a second maybe he was a little too far away. Would have taken a little too long in that tower shot, but Zapman knows his timers and his spacing. Good taunt from Panitom, connects with 2, but it's just Panitom for now.
Fighting in the 1v2, has a little help from Pegon coming in. They've got the damage, though, and that is going to be, no, not First Blood shielding from Venenu, and then just a good amount of, let's call it luck, and a little bit of survivability plus the tower gets him out of there. And the Warriors on the cusp of kills several times in a row in the last 5 minutes. But Mifflin, they have yet to actually find one and tip somebody over into the grave.
And the Highland Ravens doing a good job slowing down the pace of this one. Hurriwind finding value with the Scarab's Blessing. Ven narrowly avoiding death in mid. But even just getting forced back will start to line itself up for a decent mid-game transition for the Oni Warriors. Gold lead won't come as quickly, but it will certainly come. A TKO still is a KO. So the Highland Ravens need to be able to fight back soon. It's interesting. Do you have Hurriwind leave lane, or do you have him continue to try and pressure out Netrioid? Are you worried about Zapman, his ability to hang in the 1v1? Probably should be. He's taking a lot of damage here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I'm more worried about his ability to hang in the 2v2. And the way to look at it is he can't. Killed off, as you said. Beads weren't up for another 20 seconds. And so that one, just a well-done, well-timed attack by the Warriors for first blood over to Netrioid.
Yeah, Zapman's done that twice now. Hey, I'm not getting out of here alive. Let me go ahead and just run down the wave.
Hashtag one more wave.
If I'm going to base, I'm taking some gold with me. He does. Last time around had Scarab's Blessing, so it looks a little bit prettier. This time around has a first blood on him. And the Oni Warriors start to push that gold lead a bit more significantly, cressing that 4-digit mark. Then pulled in.
And should be, but might not be killed off. Argus and Scream putting in the work and doing a double team takedown. Panitom force out Pegon and keep Scream and Venenu alive. Well played. Admittedly by Argus a little more than Ven, but it gets the Ravens out alive and a kill to boot.
The Warriors getting real aggressive in mid. We expected this, but it's not exactly worth going into the tower. It's not exactly worth putting that much pressure that far up in lane. Highland Ravens were always going to have the potential of a Scream rotation just because he's got that global presence, so he'll be there at a moment's notice. Maybe next item slot, you really like the odds of the Oni Warriors to actually secure some of these kills. That's, what, 3 times now? Ven's walked out at 10%. Need Transcendent stacks for Pegon. Need a little bit of penetration, too.
Zap, beads, force, ult down, health bar virtually gone. At this point, maybe just calling himself lucky. I'm watching genetics, though, because all it takes is one aggressive ult, and that looks like what he's going for. Up to the sky, but he can't quite find Zap, who's hiding behind the wall. He's going to start channeling his back. Genetics will spot it out. They're going to see it. Dash forward, stun out. One more auto. Doesn't even need it. Goes for the knock-up. Kills him out. And that should be enough pressure as well to knock down that tier 1 on left. This duo lane has been oppressive against Zap.
Has knocks down the tower, as you said, but have they overstayed? Keep your eyes on the Highland Ravens. This rotation started up, and Scream doesn't have ultimate just yet, but it's not too long till he will.
Netrioid doesn't have ult. Genetics, no ult. Beads available. Well, I thought we were going to see a whole lot more of Scream. Scream turns towards the purple, and it's more about securing that, helping Zap get some of the farm. Really, honestly, maybe a more heads-up play. 2 levels down for both Hurry and Zap.
Oh, that's not good.
Scream just gets a little bit of farm over to his carry.
Anything to bail out this Anhur. You don't pick Anhur to lose the early game. One of the better boxers in lane, one of the better lane bullies too. Not exactly as good as the Magical Hunters at bullying early on though, clearly. Netrioid getting the better end of that trade just about every single time. Probably leveraging that healing from genetics as well. Oni Warriors though, that's an early tier 1 tower on left. Wonder how that affects the next few minutes here. Do you keep Netrioid there? Is he going to start freezing so he doesn't get zoned out? There might be time to start that rotation. Last time around, what was it? Tower and left, rotate to mid on Soul, knock down that one, then just keep rinse repeat all the way across the map. We'll see. Netrioid can do that once more. I'm looking at objectives too.
Yeah.
I just don't exactly love how the Highland Ravens interact on objective. Ven is, I think, going to struggle a lot on this Hera to hit priority targets. But also, we got to watch the Oni Warriors deliberately ignore objectives for almost the entirety of the last game, so wouldn't be surprised if it's all PvP again here.
Fight. Maybe over mid camps. Actually goes over to Scream. That's going to seem small. Maybe massive in the terms of the experience. Again, gold, which Mifflin haven't touched on in a while, has ballooned in favor of the Warriors. 3,000. And I don't know that it's going to slow down. Scream's looking to try and slow it down. Goes for the gank over on the Raijin. Raiju gets some damage out there, and now the double combo is going to come through. You need to hit those shots with your ult, though. And the last one connects. It's exactly what you need. The bouncing barrel does exactly what Sot wants. Leads Scream into the waiting arms of Panitom. And a couple of smacks later find a kill. It has been aggression across the board. Warriors only find the 3 kills. You might want to call it 4. And you might be able to find it, might manifest it right here. Zap. Oh my god, has to just be happy that he gets that wave, that he gets to live. Because otherwise, it was looking a wide open field for the Warriors.
But just send him back to base and get his ultimate, so what do you do? Pull the Fury while you have the advantage. Hurriwind far up. Eats the root. Here comes the damage.
Yeah, this is going to be a steady chase down. Scream, knock up on 2. It's going to be enough for a little bit. But genetics, are you going back or forward? Back is the option. They're not chasing the kill. They're chasing the objective. It's getting low, though. Scream's here. Warriors secure that. Sanctified Fields drop just for security. And Mifflin, they're playing the map, and they're just playing it better. 5,000 gold, all on the Warriors.
Did it happen faster this time?
Yeah.
It feels like it happened a little bit faster this time around for the Oni Warriors.
Those alarms are going off.
Yeah, 5,000 is just so significant now. Feels like Panitom just going to find a whole lot of value on Erlang Shen. Has been running down his enemies pretty consistently. Scream's gone towards the New Age Breastplate of Valor second slot, as has Ven. So here's the thing about your 2-man core, jungle mid. They're not really doing a whole lot of damage just yet. Especially considering Scream has gone for the Bruiser Acorn. That's thick bark. A little bit of sustain. A little bit more flurry. Not a whole lot of damage, though. So, lacking for potential in PvP are the Highland Ravens, the Oni Warriors. When they smell blood in the water, they tend to swarm. Stygian Beacon, the first target. Thinking that tier 1 mid tower, not long for this world.
It just depends. A Hurry might be on the chopping block as well. Has to play carefully. Genetics does opt to leave. It is all about the control point, the capture of the beacon. First one going to go pretty easily over towards the Warriors. Haddix uses his ult, but he's going to be met with Panitom and Sot. Uses the beads, and that solves part of his issue. The damage was there. Sot just kind of face tanks. It had no choice, right? No beads available for 20 seconds. Forces Haddix to fall back. And that's been the way this has gone. It feels like every step forward the Ravens have had, it's just met with the Warriors holding up a hand and stopping them in their tracks. Right now you've got a rotation in. You've got 4 Warriors in mid. Netrioid's half health. No ult available to him, so it looks like that might be all you need. Oh my god, Pegon. Yeah, you can ask this guy for damage. He's going to deliver and then some.
Yeah, Netrioid, though, making that rotation does leave his tower exposed. So Zapman knocks it down himself. Pretty heavy commitment once more from the Oni Warriors. See if they can find value here. Hurry still has ult.
Ven drops Argus, tries to get Argus to fight. Great Hurry ult, as you highlighted, still existing. Makes sure that Ven can get out alive. But if you're counting, that's 2 saves from what feels like certain death, Hurry's prevented. And so if you count those as kills mentally,
And I do.
that's just as much gold as the Warriors still have ahead of the Ravens. This time last game, though, we were looking at them knocking down a Phoenix. Now, it's slower pace, right? We're not getting the map done. But that makes me a little more scared, Mifflin, because that means last time around they had a 5,000 gold lead with tier 2s under their belt, and this time around they've managed to just manifest the 5,000 gold on the map without being able or without having to crush the Ravens the true way they did last time.
And now the game plan stays in line with the macro. We don't need to crush the team fight if we could just send someone back to base, knock down a tier 1 tower, perhaps grab a Pyromancer, desync the neutrals, grab a Fury. Just afterward, the Highland Ravens have shown an unwillingness to group up and defend. We'll see what it looks like here. Pyromancer pulled by the Oni Warriors.
They see it.
Ravens absolutely know. Are they willing to defend?
Well, they try. Scream steps up first. Hurry has the eyes. Neither of them are going to be able to get too much done. Pyro goes the way of the Warriors. Now Hurry in a little bit of trouble. Rinse and repeat. Tries to avoid death. And the death count of last game may be weighing heavy on his mind. He's triple goose eggs right now, but the goose eggs aren't looking great for the Ravens all around. Mifflin, it's 2 games in a row. The Warriors aren't doing it much that special. They're just choking out the Ravens any way and every way they can.
I mean, there's a degree of special in of itself, right? The clinical nature of which they have approached this game.
Yeah, Zap.
Highland Ravens pull the Primal. Panitom spots it. This ain't gonna be easy.
Got Netrioid. Genetics in the neighborhood. Taunt, good on to Haddix, force the beats. Primal Fury goes low, and Warriors just walk in and take it. The
Yikes.
Ravens can't catch a break, and now the aggression is there. Venenu drops Argus, creates a lot of good separation. Hurry has to ult himself, but it looks like Pegon's just waiting it out. Might just kill him through it if he has the opportunity. Scream onto the branches of Yggdrasil, waiting to jump down. Pegon finally kills off Hurry as he chased him, but Hurry turns that around. Pegon dies the tier 2 for it, and dies for it. Scream, Zapman, Ven. Low health, opportunities for the Warriors, but not going to be found. Hurry with maybe the most important kill of that fight.
That was a 5 versus 4. Highland Ravens is 5. They trade out 1 for 1 because Pegon decides it was worth his life to dive Hurriwind in the tier 2 tower. I'm not sure I agree with that arithmetic. He did not present his proofs, so he won't be even getting credit on whether or not it was the correct
Not even
answer.
partial credit, man. That
Nope,
sucks.
not even partial credit. I don't do that in this class. So, I mean, overall even trade with the Gold Fury Steel going to the Warriors. We're just going to go ahead and solidly give it to them. My concern, though, is SOT wasn't there at all. Didn't start rotating, didn't consider it, didn't do anything besides push a few waves, take a little bit of farm. What's the fight look like once he's there? I'm thinking it looks pretty good.
Has he not grabbed a second relic yet?
No, that's Horn Shard.
He's level 18. I guess he doesn't need it. So maybe that's on me for expecting them to want it. Pegon in trouble.
No way. He
Will
doesn't get out.
teleport out of there. Okay, Scream's got to dunk down, gets the kill. And so once again going 1 for 1. This time though, Haddix. Oh, and maybe the math is starting to skew more Warriors because it's Haddix for Pegon. But it's also the tier 2. And Mifflin, we were talking about 5,000. That's going to push them well up and above. They go over 8K here. 17.5 in. It's 5-3. Kills starting to maybe equalize for the Ravens.
I'm getting deja vu, Gores. I mean, they're hovering on the right side. The Warriors, that is. Zapman was considering a tier 2 push on left. Everybody's split pushing. People are getting picked. I got the wildest sense of deja vu. Genetics trying his best to control that Stygian beacon. Has lined up now against the likes of Hurriwind. But the question mark of the team fight of the Oni Warriors, what happens when SOT gets involved? Seems like it'll be answered pretty soon. Already makes the rotation. 3 levels up on Haddix, by the way, and has similar levels of damage with maybe a little bit more defense, barring when Haddix starts channeling his own ultimate. What do the Oni Warriors do now? Do you want to dedicate time pushing left or mid? We know it's not fire. These guys don't go fire, not in neutral. Maybe go for the fight.
Well, Pegon is going to get forced into a fight. Zap doing a lot of damage. He got 3v1. And you know what? That's going to do it for you. Numbers, I'm checking the math. This time around, it will check out. Pegon, that first death seems to be a slippery slope for him. And it has caused his team some trouble. Sot still hasn't really rotated out of his lane. Pyromancer's coming back up. If the Ravens find a way back into this, that's how they're going to do it, but they have to play carefully if they're going to pick it up. Pyromancer started by the Warriors. Netrioid leading the way, and it seems like they should be able to secure that one no problem. Sot has a little bit of pressure put onto him by Hurry. Root's going to be good. Scream's in the neighborhood. Do they have enough to try and force a fight here? Maybe the Ravens with 5 strong. I was going to tempt fate and ask for a Fire Giant, but they don't seem to want to do that. And instead, Mifflin, reset. Again, we're hovering. Actually pulling back some gold, I think, even in favor of the Ravens. Slowing this down. Never mind, it's 9,000. It's gone up even further for the Warriors. Experience, gold, everything except the kills in mid, and more so onto Pegon, have been going the way of the Warriors.
And perhaps a Fury as well. Highland Ravens
Why not?
not exactly in range to defend this one. Haddix on the right side does not have teleport, so won't be here. Argus, no good, and maybe a turn on a Scream.
We've got some damage. Scream eats, I think, only a single barrel there from the Raijin. Does have to use the beads. Blink is going to be down. He used that for some of his engage. Fury goes over to the Warriors. Mifflin, they keep marching themselves towards as massive of a lead as you can get, especially considering 9 kills, 20 minutes in. Fire Giant's the last thing standing, so they're either going towers, they're going fire, or they're looking for fights.
Ooh, look at left. Look at left.
Maybe that's going to be what it is. Panitom spots out
thinking about it.
both level 17. It's not going to go for the 1v1.
Really?
And instead plays it safe and is acknowledging that he should not be messing with Zap. Meanwhile, Sot's just doing Sot things. He's got 4 levels up on Scream, and he's going to show it. Doesn't have the ult just yet. Thunder Crash forward. Scream
Whoa.
makes it into the sky.
That's fire, right?
And he's going to get out of there. Should be a wide open right side of the map for the Warriors.
Yeah, so go ahead, pull Fire Giant. Deja Vu striking once more.
Yeah.
Zapman on the left-hand side. You force Scream back to base. He won't have his global presence to get involved. And Panitom's making the rotation too. Highland Ravens, they seem to know it. Haven't got a whole lot to say about this Fire Giant. Hurriwind is just fine. Hurriwind is just fine. Hurriwind's just fine?
Is Hurry just fine? He's getting low, taking a lot of damage. Seems to be okay. Panitom uses the taunt, needs to wait for the
big
heal to
juke.
proc
Scream might be
through.
dead.
Great jukes, and now Scream is going to be the one instead who's gone. Argus putting in some work. Same
Haddix
is
might be
Haddix, or at
dead.
least he tries to. And Hurry goes for the save. Unfortunately, might just be pulling him back into his own demise.
Couldn't do
Haddix
it.
deleted off. Hurry's still low. And it looks like he might make, oh no, never mind, I gave him too much credit, or maybe didn't give enough over to the Warriors. They got 5 strong with the Fire Giant. 4 gone on the Ravens, tier 2 in mid Phoenix. And it's just Zap. And if I've seen this play before, and I've seen this style before, and it is the Warriors. Emphatically, 2 games in a row, maybe 40, 45 combined minutes of just total domination over the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens just have not lined up for the defenses, have they? The 5-on-5 on tier 2s on Phoenixes, they're not really there. Feels like to me, when the Highland Ravens start to lose, it's, okay, guys, we just got to hold on. We got to hang in there, and if we get to 40, it's going to be okay.
And we're still holding.
And we're still holding. You're still holding. Fire Giant goes down. Pyromancer goes down the second time. Gold free for the third. Your third tower gets knocked down. Just hold on. It's going to get better soon. You gotta put the stopper somewhere.
Yeah.
You gotta draw your line in the stand somewhere and say, we are not gonna give this up. We might lose the team fight and things get worse, but just allowing the Oni Warriors to do whatever they want, it's gonna get worse either way.
Because there's this balancing act, right? Which is, okay, if you go in and die, well, maybe you lose. That game was 22 minutes. Like,
Yep.
you're losing fast
That was
no
a
matter
22
what.
minute game.
That was 22 minutes.
That's a
It
fast
was
game.
quick for the Warriors. And if you were watching, it probably, I mean, kind of felt like 40 just because there was no fighting, because the Ravens, like you said, didn't step up. They got to figure out something. Draw the line in the sand somewhere. Dig your heels in to push back. The Warriors are up 2-1. We'll see if they close it out or if the Ravens have a surprise in store for us right after this.
I've been drinking Kool-Aid cameras like I did when I was 9, 'cause I like to pretend that I haven't lost the time. In the end, the nostalgia, though it tastes fine, I can only drink a couple 'cause it feels like a lie. We'd play Halo and we'd lay low in our basement until the sun began to rise. We would go to school but not learn too much, cause it's hard to read when you've got tired eyes. Months go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drink Kool-Aid in the summertime. Years go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drink Kool-Aid in the summertime. They've been with me for some time, and it's nice to know that they still by my side. Friends are like stars, cause no matter how far, when it's dark outside, they will be your light. We'd play Halo, and we'd lay low in our basement until the sun began to rise. We would go to school but not learn too much, cause it's hard to read when you've got tired eyes. Months go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drink Kool-Aid in the summertime. Years go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drink Kool-Aid in the summertime.
Well, if you thought Game 2 was fast, the Oni Warriors stepped it up yet another notch and clean up a third game for themselves here in this set to bring themselves to a 2-1 lead. And if you want to support the Oni Warriors or any of the other teams here in the SPL, you can go to shop.highresstudios.com/SPL and pick up a jersey or hoodie for your favorite team here in the SPL. One of each of those for all 8 teams in the league, so make sure that you pick one of those up right now. That way, once we start getting around to Worlds time, you already have it there. You can maybe even buy an extra one if you want to get the signatures from all the different players. Now, I saw a lot of people doing that last time around at SWCs. Thank you so much to Skulls for joining us once more in Season 10 of the SPL and providing the merchant apparel for our teams and for our fans. Trelly, this one was breakneck pace. We thought, again, game number 2 was already fast, 24, 25 minutes. Oni Warriors decided, you know what if we just go a few minutes faster this time? And it felt just as equally dominant. I mean, we look up 16 minutes in the game. It's an 8,000 gold lead by that point. Panitom, once again, really controlling the pace of this game on the Erlang Shen.
And that's the thing. It's so odd to me that sometimes the Oni Warriors are able to just absolutely run through. I guess it depends on the drafts that they are given, or more specifically what they are forcing the Highland Ravens to try and take. But, we talked about it a bit. It did seem like duo lane got off to a great start. Unfortunately, Zapman was not able to have that free farm over in duo, as well as you said. Panitom just getting his hands on this Erlang Shen once again, and once he started to get rolling, it really did seem like there wasn't too much stopping him. And after this kill, the game did not go on for, like 6 minutes longer, which is a bit ridiculous. Just the kind of pace that you can match with the Oni Warriors, just W-keying. They're not going to stop, and that's kind of the mindset behind these sort of drafts. We didn't even think too much about the Raijin solo, but this is a pick that still does get pressure in lane. It's going to be able to clear the wave a good bit faster than something like the Hades will if you're putting pressure towards it, and that's what was happening. It wasn't like Haddix was able to just, exist by himself. There was still pressure over in that lane as well, and one lost fight just completely shut the door on this game number 3. Or, 4.
Yeah. No, close on game 3 and get us into game 4 now.
Yeah.
We'll be jumping into the picks and bans, but it's Raijin, man. I guess no matter whose hands you put it on for the Oni Warriors, able to pilot it pretty potently. A 205 for SOT. Pegon, the main focus of the Highland Ravens, and the one there to get the most kills on, but that's also because Pegon was, not going to say the most aggressive player on the team, but kind of the most out-of-pocket aggression for the team at one point, trying to fight up against Zapman over on the left-hand side. Zapman had some backup waiting for him in the jungle. Says, okay, well, you want to walk up here, you're going to get punished. Pegon, as we saw in one of those highlights, diving Hurriwind under the tower, gets the full duration of the Kingslayer, pops the revive on the Khepri and says, what if I just go back under tower again and just keep fighting? Then ends up losing his life immediately after. But I think that last little team fight right in front of the tier 2 tower really just showed how far ahead the Oni Warriors were, and especially for SOT, how potent this full cooldown Raijin build that he went was. Just being able to get these constant resets of his abilities between the Raijin passive, Spear of Desolation passive going through, and then just all the in-hands also lowering those cooldowns through, just made it seem like at every given second, SOT was casting some kind of ability against them.
Yeah, it is going to be difficult to try and deal with just because the Highland Ravens, since their first win, have been banned out pretty consistently, where it's just been Yemoja, Baba Yaga, and Najah. You're not getting your hands on these picks. Now, figure something out. And since then, Highland Ravens haven't been figuring out too much. Maybe a bit of a switch up here. It's not like the Highland Ravens can try and go for the same strategy, right? They got to switch something up, starting, first of all, with that Erlang Shen. Not going to give that over towards Panitom. So the Oni Warriors are going to have to find a new jungle pick at the very least. Maybe the Highland Ravens try and force something else early game as well. I don't think the Camazotz is going to be, that end-all, be-all. And in fact, it wasn't really like the Oni Warriors were too interested in letting that Yemoja through themselves. Sure, they didn't have to ban it here, but if the Highland Ravens want something else in return, looks like they can use that throwaway ban on the Yemoja and try and force the Warriors into giving them something more impactful. Thinking about this one, do you want to take away that Chernobog, give that global presence away, or try and get something different for yourself?
I'm wondering if the Oni Warriors do a throwaway ban here, because then that's going to leave open Khepri, Athena, and Chernobog. And I'm sure the Oni Warriors would be more than happy to take 2 of those 3 selections, because
Athena, Khepri.
Take them both. Why not? Honestly, we've seen Athena in 4 different roles at this point. It would not surprise me if we saw the Oni Warriors take both if given the opportunity, but it'll just be likely now a trade-out between those supports. So which one do the Highland Ravens value more? Do you want to go for the Khepri, keep that one away from Genetics? No, it'll be the Athena instead for the Ravens. So now the Warriors can grab Khepri for themselves right here, or maybe they can say, okay, well, we know that this Athena might not be going to anybody except for Hurriwind. Take some time, wait maybe until that 3rd pick Khepri, or it could just be a case where Genetics doesn't even want to play the Khepri. Time will be the deciding factor on that. But what we do know, at least the here and now, is that the Athena for the Highland Ravens, such a potent pick throughout the league and going into a player like Hurriwind's hands.
Well, the Oni Warriors aren't going to think too much about the Olorun at the very least. They'll take your advice, understand, hey, there's a good to fair chance that the Khepri is not going to get picked up in the top 3 here. For the Highland Ravens, that is. So we can wait on that pick to see if we really want it. Which, of course, the stats say they probably should, but Genetics is not apt to taking the best god available every single time. Sometimes it gets bored. But the Olorun and the Raijin, though, could be something you're giving on back to SOT, or that Pegon wants to take into the mid lane. The freedom of where these gods go has been pretty impactful so far for the Oni Warriors. Just the ability to role swap, essentially, these picks, like the Cerberus and the Horus early on, and like the Raijin and the set from last match. But you got this double mage core, and I believe when you got the double mage, you want to get some of that tread, so maybe it will be something like the Cerberus, but for now, you look towards the Highland Ravens, and they're going to grab the Soul and Pele. Definitely nothing to shake a stick at.
Athena, Soul, Pele. Give some flex to the Pele. This one could go to Scream. One could go to Venenu. We'll have to see what the rest of the draft ends up being. Khepri, though, for the Oni Warriors, so Genetics going to go for game number 8. Now, when I said this phase, I also included the kickoff tournament, where Genetics started with a 4-0 there, and then now 3-0 in the regular phase. So, for game number 8, can Genetics keep up that 100% win rate on the god in this half of the year? And what else do you see the Oni Warriors go to? And I think specifically for me, Trelly, I want to know what in the world Panitom was thinking, because, I don't know if you were on Twitter last night, Genetics put out a tweet, said, can't trust this guy. He posted a screenshot between him and Panitom, where Panitom was asking if something, and the something was blocked out, is a troll pick. And then he said, I want to play it tomorrow. So I want to know what this quote-unquote troll pick was to know if we're actually going to see it, or if this was all just bait just to get me to give a shout-out to Genetics Twitter on the desk.
It was the Erlang. Genetics was like, nah, man, that pick's troll. You can't pick that. I'm just lying. That's not true.
I have no idea.
But up until this set, I didn't have too much faith in the Erlang, if I'm honest. But so far, has been very scary when given the right backup, which the Oni Warriors usually provide towards Panitom. So that has not been able to get back into his hands this time around. The Susano also taken away. Definitely a smart call for the Ravens. Panitom has shown he will grab that pick pretty much every chance he gets in that 4th slot, but the Lancelot sneaks its way through as well. Definitely something that other teams are starting to take notice of. Definitely a strong pick out of the jungle. I'm surprised Panitom's able to get in the top 4, but sometimes as a set evolves, you sort of have to, prioritize different things, and where looking at this draft on paper goes, wait, why are we letting Lancelot through at this point? But yeah, the set, the Susano, the Erlang, all take priority in this case.
So now, Oni Warriors still one more pick for them. Highland Ravens, and we'll get our answers to where this Pele is going with these last 2 selections. A hover of Persephone. Not going to be locked in yet. Instead, it will be a Sun Wukong for the solo laner Haddix. So what do we see Venenu or Screammmmm go to in this case? I am inclined to believe that this Pele is just being hovered and won't be locked in. We haven't seen very much... Persephone. Did I say Pele?
Yeah.
Persephone. Sorry. Good correction. Just because we haven't really seen Persephone much at all this year. I don't even recall if we have seen it in SPL play in this year. I know we've seen it maybe some points at the SCC. Sometimes those players go out there. Maybe randomly we'll get somebody like maybe Benny will have some kind of want to play that. But instead, who cares? It was just a hover. We move on to Surtur, something that Scream has played a couple of times in the jungle, has worked really well for him in the jungle. especially when you can get up those big stacks, get up into the hundreds if the game goes long enough. But given the pacing that the Oni Warriors have set, might not have a chance to get that many stacks in the game. But how do you kind of feel about the bottom two now for the Highland Ravens for the rest of their composition?
I love the double warrior dive. I think that's something that a lot of teams need to start prioritizing against the Oni Warriors. Is a decent composition to W key back, which Surtur and Wukong can certainly do. Throw a Pele with a Athena ult in the mix, and that's kind of the idea. Jing Wei is the last option for the Oni Warriors, though. It's interesting. I guess you're going one of the ADCs in mid, I would assume. Or you take an ADC over to Sod. It's not as if he hasn't been playing ADCs in the solo lane, especially on his stream. He does that a lot. So I am done with trying to lock in exactly what pick SOT goes, just because the switch up is always there. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And game number 1, Pegon was dashing in consistently on the Raijin, sort of inting a bit, and they pick it again and they say, all right, Sod, you take it this time. Now, do you send that Raijin back to Sod? Do you send it back to Pegon? Or do you do something else entirely? The only thing I'm definitely sure about is that Genetics should probably take the Khepri just because of the win rate you brought up.
Yeah, when you're 100% on a god, and it's not like you only played him 1 or 2 times. Even having 6, 7 games on a god where it's undefeated in a phase is definitely something where I would want to try and put the hot hand in that direction. So, likely, the only thing we can confirm would be Genetics with Khepri.
Should be able to confirm.
Opposite side, I think it's easy to kind of nail down where all these gods are going to be going. We've been seeing Surtur jungle from Scream, Pele mid, No Stranger, Soul to the duo with the Athena, and then Haddix on the Wukong. So instead of trying to figure out where the Oni Warriors composition is going, Charlie, how do you just feel about the Oni Warriors composition in general? What are the strengths that this composition has to fight against the Highland Ravens?
Well, they've got double ADC late game. Lancelot is just very impactful at the moment. So much diversity if you know how to use that ultimate with the Horus. And especially if you get late game, man, those procs can really chunk someone. I've been really surprised at how much damage these Lancelot jungles have been doing. Put that with the Khepri, who is going to be one of the better solo tanks you can get, just because I don't imagine the Lance or the Raijin are going to get too tanky as this game continues. Having that Khepri, having the Cerberus Blessing just means that you can sort of go through, dive as far as you want, and still have that safety net, which certainly helps out. So the Highland Ravens are going to have to try and put enough pressure, and then they're in that awkward balancing match where do we try and burst before the Scarab's Blessing? Do we try and wait the Scarab's Blessing out? Or do we just kill immediately, get the reset, and then try and chase down afterwards? Not always easy, and it's also, sometimes you don't get the choice. If the Scarab's Blessing is placed perfectly onto some burst damage or some tick damage, sometimes you can't even make that choice. You're automatically just giving that revive, which can be super annoying.
So we'll have to see if the Highland Ravens can bounce back, take game number 4, and push us to 5, or the Oni Warriors going to close it out in 4. Let's jump one more time over to Gormizer and Mifflin for the game.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Trelly and Miff. He's got a point, and more than anything, I would say in this case, I need to see the Ravens play, period. It just feels like the games have been happening at them the last few times, and we'll see what we end up seeing here. Of course, Doug joining me and you.
Thanks,
watch
Doug.
him. Try to hold on to it. Yeah, he watches more SMITE than anybody.
Well,
he watches.
He took a week off, you know.
Yo.
I didn't know. We don't do that, Gore. That's not us.
Yeah, you're right. I'm totally not taking a week off anytime soon.
Nice.
62% here in favor of the Warriors. And you know what, Mifflin? I think you were kind of talking about it, but like draft-wise, Pele mid for Vin. Like, there's definitely some aspects of the Ravens that have worked well in the past for them.
Yeah, the
Do they
bottom
work well
3
together?
picks. The bottom 3 picks on the Ravens, I actually love.
Okay.
You know, Pele, Athena, Soul. I will give that to any team and say they've done a good job. I'm not sure that the entirety of this composition, though, functions as a whole. Athena simplifies your engagement to such a ludicrous degree.
They're going for first blood.
No way. All right, well, then I'll let you take it, bud.
I mean, that's the only thing you could try to get. You can steal the purple. That might be one thing, but you got to get something a little more than that. Just be the buff, really? Is the invade worth that much to them? I mean, it doesn't give a whole lot over to you.
It doesn't give a whole lot, but it does potentially leave every camp up on the left side for their jungler. So if Panitom so chooses, could just allow Pegon to free farm? No, they're going back and collecting it anyway. Yeah, they're chilling, man. They're Jay chilling over in the duo lane. That's a significant lead. The farm denial is massive. They still got enough though on the Highland Ravens to tick over to 2 on first wave, so not backbreaking, but certainly not fun. And also losing that timer will make it easier for Panitom to start rotating over towards that purple buff.
It also gives maybe a small advantage. That was already half health from that. Pegon, speaking of which, half health now. Jingwei mid, man.
Yep.
I'm going to be real with you. The Ram mid threw me off guard, but Pegon made it look good. How are you feeling about Jingwei? Just in, like, not even in general. I guess in mid, it has to be because we've seen her in duo. She's done well. And she's safe. She's got all the things Jingwei still does, but it's not your standard aggressive pick that Pegon likes to play.
No, that's a scaling pick to play for pressure on structure. Haddix perhaps in trouble here as Panitom's hovering nearby. Don't think he'll have an opportunity to rotate in towards that lane. What I saw from Pegon on Ram mid was the laning phase was miserable. I believe dives 3 times to ganks, but did get to transition to the late game as a hunter. Just a standard hunter, felt good, dealt damage to structures and the PvE. Now on Jingwei, I think we'll have an easier time surviving the laning phase.
Well, right now, Genetics needs to survive. Dash should be good enough. Scream, unfortunately, not going to have anything to show for the gank on left. Does have the shield buff, though, so small things able to pick him up. Now, Mifflin, I will say it, though. I'm happy just to see Scream getting active. It feels like, and I already kind of said this, but it feels just like the last couple of games, the Ravens really haven't had much of a stand. They found a couple of kills, but the objectives, unfortunately, one stolen away from them last game, enhanced the Warriors' lead even further. But otherwise, it's just been a lot of control. I mean, it's just been the Warriors slowly choking them out. Hasn't been flashy plays. It's been impressive nonetheless, but have to see something from them here. And so I guess my question to you is, knowing that it's Surtur, I know you weren't as big on the Surtur and the Wukong, but having the Pele there, like, where's the fight happen for the Ravens? Where's their success found? And is it maybe exclusively in the duo lane? Because that's where I've kind of only seen it.
I mean, duo pressure is going to be fine so long as Hurriwind is there, but once Hurriwind takes over to level 5, you kind of want to play anywhere besides where Hurriwind is for the Highland Ravens so they can actually leverage that global presence. So maybe catching SOT in the soul lane is where I would put my attention. Feels like a Raijin has slow escape, has to slow himself if he wants the CC immunity from his ultimate, has gone for a squishy selections, so Vampiric, Tiny Trinket. Decent potential for Scream to rotate over, make it difficult to exist as a Raijin in the soul lane. And then if Hurriwind's also getting involved, even more difficult for that Raijin. Otherwise, playing through mid, always going to be a viable option if your mid laner is Pele. I will say, though, it's not, where's the aggression? It's, we need aggression, right? It's not an option of, we can wait for late game and just play for our 5-on-5. I feel like with this draft for the Highland Ravens, they need to get something started.
They might need to get it started soon. Last few times, I think actually last game, relatively close at 4 minutes. Not too much that you can do to take things away. Warriors, very, 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 very slight gold lead.
How many varies was that? 4?
5, 4, something like that. I wasn't counting.
It is slight.
Yeah, it's 300, 200 on a given wave. And Mifflin, I guess the better question at this point, especially with this pace of game, and it's actually rough because we've had this pace of game 2 games in a row where the Warriors have just slowly manifested gold. They've taken objectives, they've found all the neutrals, they've gotten steals, things like that.
We're on pace.
And so it's not exactly the way I want to look at it. Maybe First Blood is going to change some things. But if we're looking at this pace, I feel like it is worthwhile talking about team fight. Because as long as they can keep it somewhat even, it's something that we had said in Game 2 that we thought, oh yeah, the Ravens, this comp, if you can get to a team fight, it's going to be great. And then they were 5,000 gold down, 14 minutes in. And then in Game 2, we didn't like it quite as much, but it was still a good-looking comp, and then they were 5,000 gold 11 minutes in. Now we're seeing them get aggressive. We're seeing them fight back. But unfortunately for them, they're not finding too much. Blue buff steal might come through, and they will be able to take that away from Sot. So small things, that's keeping the gold from ballooning. But how do we like the team fight potential for them if it does wait until 15 minutes before we see a fight?
Yeah, it's what I was trying to talk about before that crazy purple buff invade at the start of the game. The only bit of confirmable AoE damage that's going to be consistent for the Highland Ravens is from Zapman. It's the 2 plus ultimate combo. And even then, Soul's burst damage compared to other mages, not exactly the highest. Her burst damage compared to other mage ADCs is actually pretty decent, but not compared to something like a Raijin or a Ra or Poseidon, just that one big follow-up that's going to be there every single time. So what we are going to see, I think, from the Highland Ravens is dash taunt from Hurriwind. Zapman throws out his kit. Maybe there's enough damage from that Ven can full engage. Screammmmm and Haddix are going to be already diving the backline. I just think it's not enough confirmable damage behind the CC for the Highland Ravens to be as threatening. And because they are generally lacking for the AoE damage, it's going to be even easier for Genetics to completely disregard that one guy you're really focusing.
Yeah.
Just hit him with the Scarab's Blessing. More than likely going to be Netrioid. You could trust Pegon to be safe on the Jingwei. SOT is going to be a tank eventually. So there are ways around it. There are obviously ways around that direct lineup. But it's not exactly going to be easy for the Ravens, I don't think.
All right, now, a little bit of pressure. And it's going to be the junglers meeting around the shield buff camp. Both of them were looking for a gank. Panitom takes a little more poke. Has to fall back. And that is going to be, I think, everything that existed there on the duo lane. And instead, Mifflin, it's back to the small reset. Nothing too crazy. Admittedly, if I'm thinking about it, Khepri and Olorun, while Olorun is great at like pushing lanes, I wasn't necessarily maybe thinking of as like the most kill heavy, although we've seen they can be kill heavy, at least against a Ymir. But when I'm looking at, like, I see the Jingwei, Sot didn't really get too much done in lane last time. He just kind of refused to rotate, and then eventually was doing more damage than Haddix could deal with. So maybe expecting fights is not right, but they're going to go for one anyway. Jousting Field's used. Scream low. All you need is a little bit of help, and there's Hurry to come in. Taunt onto Panitom, forces the beads. They're going to try to turn this around. A lot of low health bars, a lot of rotations. Safety there for Sot, but they're not going to proc it. He gets to dash away, and despite all of that, all the fighting, all the clashing, and all the damage so far, it seems like there will still be no first blood. 8.5 minutes in as the teams manage to make it out.
But the Ravens do come out ahead on that skirmish, maybe. Could look for a round for a little bit of advantage. Buff invade does go their way. Scream, credit for that one. Control of their own side of the map too. So small win for the Highland Ravens even without having hit pay dirt, but it is a massive dedication of time. Abduct caught from Genetics. He's got nothing left here.
He's low, but at this point he's got something that they don't have, and that's Pegon, who's got full health, a lot of mana, and the ult. Venenu, Hurry, forced out thanks to the Jingwei. And Genetics, despite being low and despite
that might be tower.
coming close.
Oh, it is tower.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice wide open mid lane. And this is, again, this is the same thing that happened. Admittedly, we are nowhere near as far ahead in gold as we've seen in the past for the Warriors. But
2,000?
It's
pretty decent.
A tower super early and mid that's going to allow Pegon to start rotating. Maybe we see the fights come break through now.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they just choke him out again.
I just don't feel like the Oni Warriors like need to force engagements where it does feel like there is a need for the Highland Ravens to get something rolling. And it's not for lack of trying now. We can't even say that. They have now twice, the Highland Ravens that is, forced massive engagements on that right side jungle around that blue buff timer. Just haven't quite been able to hit pay dirt. Haven't seen the Volcanic Lightning find big value from Ven just yet. That's a little bit more of that AoE damage, but a little bit less confirmable, I think, for the Highland Ravens. Maybe if Ven can find some of those opportunities, and he has hit some significant power spikes now, should be able to get something rolling for the Ravens.
So far, not a damn thing's been rolling this game. Heads maybe will roll eventually, but it has been patience from both these squads. Like you said, though, if you're the Warriors, you don't need to push anything too crazy.
Doesn't seem like it, no.
And the Ravens have been trying. Some pretty big grouping from the Warriors on left. Maybe the Warriors themselves will be looking for something. Finn targeted slightly.
That hits hard.
A little bit of poke, thrown both ways. Sot in trouble. Somersault Cloud used by the Wukong. Using the fear portion of the ultimate, creates some space. He's deep in his tier 2. Tier 1 still standing. Genetics locked down between 2, now 3, with Venenu coming in, but it is a purple buff steal for the Warriors. Mifflin, if we're counting that,
Hold on.
it's going to be a blue buff steal and invade successful for the Ravens. Small trades across the map.
Yeah, SOT does a good job surviving on the right there, and will resustain it quickly with Pythagorum's piece, but Haddix didn't have ultimate. I thought maybe we'd see SOT go for that leap in. Seems like if anyone's going to break that stalemate, it'd be either SOT or Pegon as two of the fastest and loosest guns in the SPL, but instead, some discipline from the young players. And the Highland Ravens find small wins on right, but small losses on left. The Oni Warriors continue to control that pace. The gold lead has been cut, though. We were approaching that 2,500 mark, I believe, for a moment there now. Closer to just below 2,000. So, significant fight back. And you don't often get to see this, experience going one way and gold going the other. So, slight advantages to the Highland Ravens in that regard. A lot of that experience, though, non-impact experience, maybe about a half level in the jungle, but as far as mid is concerned, Pegon's got a slight lead. Supports are even. So it's really hard to say that one side's particularly advantaged. Maybe it's time, though. We're starting to approach that like 14 some odd minute mark. That's generally when we see these teams feel a bit more confident in their ability to look towards gold. Pegon forced to use those beads defensively there. Caught out near his own tower. Netrioid's going to hit his power spikes pretty quickly, too. Maybe the Warriors could start thinking about forcing fights around the objectives.
Well, the big thing right now, Haddix is rotated. Sot, I think originally maybe wasn't. Pushes a wave under the tower. Now he's starting to make his way over. Netrioid's come in, uses the Sanctified Fields, and uses them defensively.
There goes the fight.
And so that's going to be pretty massive, maybe in favor of the Ravens.
Fighting anyway?
But it's going to be a lot of damage, and it's going to be Genetics and Panitom on the receiving end of that. Scream goes in. He's looking for it. Wants the first blood. Instead, will just pull the ult. Eats a lot of damage in the process. Sot doing a ton, and oh my god, they're running right towards them. The Ravens are falling apart despite the advantage, and now it's Sot. Again, he's changing it. The Thunder Crash forward. It just works better for them. And they are going to find 2 kills here. They lose SoloOrTroll in the process. But look at Pegon waiting it out patiently. They get 3, and they only lose 1 in the process. They still have the beacon to go for. And my, oh my, we had to wait, but an explosive fight for first blood.
I cannot believe the Oni Warriors decided, oh, Netrioid's getting jumped on alone in our buff and had to ult himself defensively. Yeah, we win these. It's not an issue. SOT's gonna hit everybody with Raijin. Don't sweat. Tycho Drum, yeah, he's collatting at least 4. No big deal. We didn't need that damage. We didn't need time dilation. That's not why he picked it. We picked it so someone would be a lightning rod for aggression. That is crazy from the Oni Warriors. SOT does so much. It is criminal that he is not rewarded with at least 1 kill. 3 assists over to the solo laner. Big impact rotation on that Raijin. Catches out everybody on the Highland Ravens. That said, though, Hurriwind hit like 3 impact taunts that team fight too. He catches out Pegon early, burns the beads. He catches out 2 on the defensive retreat as well. But it just doesn't matter because the AoE damage has not been there. I didn't see a big volcanic lightning. Ven really struggled to get involved on that damage. Zapman, I mean, was connecting his auto attacks. He connects his abilities, but it's not enough burst just yet. Felt like the Khepri shielding passive dealt with a lot of it on its own. The Ravens need to be a little bit more committal, I think, to the fight. Things started to go south, but had they just said, let's get in there, let's take the engagement, doesn't matter, Scream's already ulted into the tower for some reason. Let's go ahead and make it happen. But it was split decision-making. It seemed like just a few members, okay, maybe we fight. A few other members, what are you talking about? And when there's that disagreement, things aren't going to work out.
Well, Tauntaun to Pegon. Should be fine. Scream's coming up in the back. Looks like Pegon wants to stand his ground, though. Does a lot of damage. He's missed a couple of shots, and it's a 2v3, so you have to play carefully here. It seems like they're going to be fine. Hurry as well leaves. Goes for a taunt on his own. Doesn't have Zap for backup. And Myth, it actually makes me think of something. And I'll have to give a shout out to some content you did. Maybe we'll have to wait for a moment to do so, though. Shield buff. Secured by Panitom. Grouping from the Warriors on left. And Pegon just dashed forward, so they want a fight. It's just where and when they can find it. They're going to go either for the tower or, like you said, hurry. The tower is going to be easy. Hurry might just as well be for them. I mean, it is just a tear through his health bar.
Then keep going.
And they're going to go ahead and apply some of that pressure. Pegon's half.
Watch Sot's rotation.
Coming in. Yeah, relatively late, but he's coming in nonetheless. Dash forward, goes immediately for Scream. Scream up to the air. And he's on the retreat, goes back towards his buff. Could be a Fury. Pegon with an easy reset is Jing Wei. He's going to be able to come back into the fight pretty quickly, and they're going to go ahead and pick that up. But it makes me think, Mifflin, of what you were talking about with the Warriors during their team check-in, which you can check out live. Well, I guess check out now the video of on youtube.com/SmitePro. One question you had asked was like their confidence levels. Genetics and Panitom actually disagreed, and one thing that Panitom had said was, no, we just kind of know that we can win the fight. We know that we're better in those regards. And it kind of feels like those are the fights we're getting right now, is that level of that team.
Yeah, just the ability for all of them to agree all the time, I think, is one of the primary strengths of the Oni Warriors. They're of like mind in that if there is a fight presenting itself, they love taking it. And they've done so beautifully now. 4-1, gold lead, ballooned out of control. We're right back to where we were, 14 minutes in, I believe, games 2 and 3. It was around that 5,000 mark. A little bit later this time. SOT jumped on by everyone, beats Aegis, but won't make it out. Scream knocks him down. Pegon up to the sky, should be able to survive this one. The Highland Ravens, in a committal engagement, finally find one clean.
I needed it.
But what can they do with it? Knock down a tower on right? It's a good start, but it's not enough to stem the bleeding.
When we talk about it, it's been mentioned. I think Inbound has been saying it a lot lately. But you got to give credit to FDOT, the guy who said it first. The stuff after the stuff. I mean, it's fun to joke about, but it is pretty legit. What are you doing with that kill? They get the tier 1 on right, and that's about it. And so the gold lead still pretty heavily in favor of the Warriors, despite the kills being only 2 apart. Fire Giant, the only thing left standing, so we're probably waiting for a Pyromancer. We have seen the Warriors wait. They'll sit on their hands instead of going for that unless they think that it is going to be more certain for them, which is weird because I'm used to seeing this team go for a little bit more. Instead, Panitom going to go ahead and fight against Finn. It's going to be back and forth. Jousting Fields.
Oh my God,
the damage! I thought there was going to be a little more to the fight, but no, he just takes him out. Kills him from 40% like it's nothing. And suddenly, Mifflin, you've got a 4v5 anywhere on the map. You might want it if the Warriors try to fight.
Again, I think that's another fight, though, that is indicative of the issue. Panitom was just willing to say, all right, let's do it. Let's see this fight to the end. Throws out the ultimate first, and it's Ven reaction ultimating, saying, please don't hit me with that. Maybe Ven just going ahead and getting aggressive, taking the engagement, leveraging the lifesteal from Soul Eater. Things could have been a little bit different there, but it's the confidence of the Oni Warriors jungler that wins him that skirmish. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, it's a deep invade from the Oni Warriors. Just scouting, seeing what's going down. Highland Ravens playing defensively, not giving up a whole lot here.
Hurry goes for a taunt. He gets some poke out onto Sot, but that is not a fight they want to go for. Beacon is up and available right now. Neither team looking at it. Fire Giant started by the Warriors, but it's a bait. They pull in Hurry, and they're trying to melt through his health bar. They're going to do so pretty easily. And now it's Zap who's in trouble. Dive deep from Panitom. Needs a little extra hits, and he's going to find it double for Netrioid as he weaves in that last auto. Scream out of position and out of time, out of life. Triple for Netrioid. 4-0 and 3. 8-2 for the Warriors, and a controlling lead one more time.
Sanctified Fields absolutely decimated that team fight, Gore. I mean, the Highland Ravens were weaving in and out of the time dilation because they had to. That narrow corridor so difficult to navigate, and the Oni Warriors with opportunity with free casting on Netrioid and Pegon, who I believe go just about untouched in that fight. Obviously going to win out with all that DPS. The Highland Ravens lose out on the Fire Giant. It's all 5 now on the Oni Warriors. Gold lead, experience, parity in that they're both approaching 10,000. Parity as well in that they're both going to the Oni Warriors.
And look, when you hit level 20, this is a little secret for the spectator.
Okay.
It keeps counting the experience that the team has earned, right? Even though it doesn't apply. They just hit 20 for Pegon and Netrioid. So that is a true 10,000 that is thrown down there. That is a true lead for them, and you see it all over the board, Myth. That is a hard spot to be in.
Except for Hurry. He's farming up all right.
Yeah, he's keeping pace. And he's been finding good taunts. Admittedly, he's been playing pretty great. It's just the...
I think it
There's no
really is
follow-up.
the comp. I think it really is the comp that is making the Highland Ravens suffer. Athena is so good, man. That guy just wins you games because he's going to walk up, he's going to land a taunt, and it doesn't matter. He could die afterward, but it makes him group up on his corpse. And you just need the AoE damage to be there, and it hasn't been for the Ravens.
I don't know that we're going to see it anytime soon. Zap maybe is the one to look at for it. He's on left alone.
They might be dead.
Yeah, no, if he's not careful, he might
they
not
got global.
be able to
Scream
survive.
should be okay.
Scream, Willie?
Oh, he's dragged him away.
Looks like
yeah, Scream's dead.
Sot's looking for the kill.
He sacked himself.
And he's going to go ahead and find that, but is it even a full sack? Because right now we see Pegon still chasing, looking for a little bit more. Zap does go down on left,
Oh,
and the
no.
aggression's still there. Yeah, good luck with that one. That
Oh, no.
duo on the Warriors is just playing better. And that just seems to be their MO today. They are just cleaner than the Ravens. Game 1, an all-out brawl. Since then, it has been nothing but Warriors control. They're looking to knock on some Phoenixes here, Myth.
2 bombs.
Again, 2 bombs for Genetics. Should be a pretty easy left side Phoenix. If they even need the bombs themselves, don't use them. Knock the bird down, no problem. Tower still up in mid. And those pesky Ravens are going to be respawning here. That's going to solve one decision issue for the Warriors, which means they're not going to stay aggressive on the Phoenix line. Instead, they get to fall back. They've got the fire. They can go for the Primal. Myth, they're kind of running out of things to do other than kill the Titan.
I mean, the Oni Warriors have seen very little resistance since Game 1. The Highland Ravens lost the plot a bit. Base defense ain't looking good, Gore. Usually, I'd love to tell you, yeah, they'll keep the minions out. It'll be pretty decent if it comes down to a war attrition. The poke battle's going to look good, or at least it's a spearhead defense. They can all in. Best defense, good offense. I really don't see it. I don't see it for the Ravens. Not with this draft. It just hasn't lined up yet. 5-man taunt, 5-man volcanic lightning, 5-man Zapman ultimate, and I'm still not sure that's enough, right? I'm really down on this Highland Ravens composition. Oni Warriors, they've already broken the base. Left side Phoenix, the most valuable, the most difficult to defend, while simultaneously tussling with the idea of dealing with a fire giant. And there's still enough time on this fire giant power play, roughly 30 seconds, that the Oni Warriors can at least restrict the positioning of the Highland Ravens. By putting pressure on the map, the Ravens will be forced to respond or just lose their bird. 2 on left. And they've revealed themselves now. At least one has. You know Surtur isn't here. You didn't even know Zap wasn't, but he didn't show up either way. And they walk in, they take the mid Phoenix, and that is a perfect encapsulation of the entire state of the back half of this set.
Yeah. Back 3/4 of it so far. And I'm starting to willing to say
It's happened
might
again.
just be 3/4. They walk in, they take the Phoenix, they kill Haddix.
What's going on?
Hurry's not going to even make it up into the sky. The Warriors run forward. Scream's not even back in base yet. It's up to Zap and Finn. Scream soon to try and stop this, but Sanctified Fields come out. The Warriors look good, look clean, look crisp, and look untouchable so far this set, but maybe not for the right reason. Scream's got to pick one up. Unfortunately for him, it's a triple for Netrioid. And you might as well call it a triple, because that's what the Warriors got. 3 in a row here to close out this set.
And Titan's going down just as soon as the Oni Warriors make the decision to knock it down. Maybe minions had to get involved there. That's an ugly end to this one. No defense at all. Mid and right Phoenix, nobody shows up to defend. There's this split decision on left. Are we split pushing? Are we not split pushing? Well, I don't want to reveal myself on wave. I'll just hide in the jungle, says Zap. Okay. You're hiding in the jungle. You didn't push with it. You didn't defend with it either. You're just in the jungle, my guy. Nothing looks good there. Haddix steps up, gets owned immediately, doesn't even get up into the somersault cloud. Ravens lost the plot in the back half, and you know what? I'm going to be checking the Jade Dragons PayPals because I know ball. Okay, that one felt to me like a little bit of a collusion. All right, they're trying to make me look bad out here.
I saw it in chat. Somebody even said that, you know, if you just ignore game 1, it was a 3-0 for the Warriors. They just they delayed it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a crazy sentence to say, though. If you just ignore it.
Yeah, if you ignore the fact that you were wrong the one time, you were absolutely right.
Yeah.
But admittedly, and even if you had told me this was a 3-0, and this, again, 3-1, I would believe that it was a hard fought, right? I would think that it was like game 1, it just happened 3 times in a row.
I wonder what happened to that game 1 Ravens. They were going
disappeared.
blow for blow.
They were hiding in the jungle.
It looks like they
waiting
got
for the next
asphyxiated,
wave.
like an actual boxing match. They were holding their breath in game 1, just slugging out in the middle, and they had nothing left for the rest of the set.
Yeah, and unfortunately for us, we didn't see any of the rest of it. Like you said, just disappears. For Warriors fans and everyone who was voting for the Warriors in chat, all 60-some-odd% of you, you earned a lot of points those last 3 games, and it was pretty simply done. But that's going to do it for myself and Myth. If it's a 3-1 for the Warriors, we'll throw it over to the desk and they can break it down.
Yeah, game 4, once more dominant for the Oni Warriors. It didn't quite start that way, at least not at the beginning. First 6, 7, 8 minutes, fairly even game, no blood spilled just yet, but once that first blood goes down, it's 1,000 gold a minute. Pretty much is the pacing set beyond there. We look up, it's 22, 23 minutes in the game, Charlie, and we're staring at a 15,000 gold lead for the Oni Warriors. It just felt like after that game 1, the Ravens never looked like they were on the same page as each other.
Yeah, and from what I saw, game 1 happens. The Oni Warriors make a real quick switch up and say, okay, we know what we need to take away. And since they stopped that, it was just a win out, right? They're like, okay, bro, we see the combo here. We are not giving, the Yemoja, the Naja, the Baba Yaga again. That was a little too much for us to deal with. Once they figured that out, it was smooth sailing. And this game, I don't want to say ugly, but Myth said ugly, and I wanted to quote him, so I guess I have to. The ending did look a bit ugly, a bit messy, we'll call it. When you're trying to fight back into a deficit like this, I can understand looking for some split push plays. I can understand, giving up some Phoenixes, but you got to understand just how much damage the Oni Warriors had, where they could just walk in and do essentially whatever they wanted. I mean, they when you can't misplay, when you're so far ahead that you're never overextended, I mean, unfortunately the enemy team is just glued to their fountain or they're out of position as far as it looks like.
I mean, when Netrioid's able to get multiple triple kills in a game. By the way, that was one of the first times that I do recall seeing Genetics actually use his ultimate is when he's about to die, not when a teammate's about to die. When he's about to die. He does eventually go down at the end of it, but I mean, there was just no threat to the Oni Warriors whenever Genetics is on this pick. It's really showing that there is a reason why he is currently now 8-0 on the Khepri. I'm not saying that every team from here on needs to ban the Khepri from him, but it needs to be under the mind of every single one.
Why are you winking at me when you're saying that?
Like,
why are your
you
fingers
don't
crossed?
need to ban the Khepri, but if Genetics is going to be able to really allow his team this much space on a pick like this consistently, it's definitely got to be under the watchful mind of everybody.
Imagine dying twice in that game. Embarrassing for Sun.
Can't believe it. That's because Genetics wasn't there to give him the Khepri ultimate. But not that he would have used it anyway.
I was going to say, he was only using it for himself, and he still died, so maybe a little bit either way. Dominant performance there from the Oni Warriors. A little spill, but hey, adjustments were made. That's what's important.
Able to pick themselves back up after game number 1. Yep. They look clean ever since that point. One of the players who was able to spearhead that cleanliness of play was Panitom the Jungler, standing by with Gormaz for the post-game interview.
That's right, I got Panitom here, and I'm going to ask you, I guess, just a couple of things about the set. One, of course, is just the last couple of games, well, last 3, all 3 of the wins, it just felt really controlling for you guys. What do you contribute to having like that much control on the game?
I feel like the control was on the picks and bans, because first game they had like a really slow team. Like they have Wukong, Baba, Yemoja. It's like Nisha going full tankiness. It's like really hard to kill those. And when we changed the picks and bans and we had like more pressure, more kill potential, it was like really easy to run it over.
So is that like the loss in game 1 was what I was going to ask about next? Do you contribute that mostly to picks and bans as well? Was that their draft? Because you guys were brawling. I mean, it felt like a fight constantly through there. Such a high kill count. But the Ravens slowly kind of pulled themselves ahead. Was it mainly the draft?
Yeah, I will say it was the draft 100%. Like, not being mean, but as you saw, second game was like we were killing the Ymir on cooldown, like literally on cooldown. But if he's Yemoja, he go beats. He's really easy to kill, like it's really hard to kill, I would say. And Baba's is the same thing because he has beats, Aegis, ult, and he go prophetic. It's like really hard to kill. So yeah, 100% was the picks and bans.
And we saw hard to kill. I think there was a moment I was trying to count how many times Vin had to use like beads, Aegis. Just felt unkillable. But then again, 2, 3, 4, you guys just absolutely dominated. Which brings me to the halfway point, right? Which is you guys at this point, what, 5 sets now down. And so, or sorry, 6 sets down. So looking towards like the latter half of this phase, like where's the team at, and how are you guys feeling looking towards the rest of the road to Worlds?
We're feeling really good. We haven't got the best practice, and we are still doing good. So I can only see like going forward, you know, like getting better. So yeah.
And I guess for you, especially in the jungle right now, I'm a little curious as to like where things have been. You know, you've been playing, it feels like anything and everything that you can have. And so like, you know, for the Warriors, do you feel like you play through yourself? Do you play through Pegon? Because last phase we got to talk a little bit about it. Where do you think your success is being found? And maybe this is giving too much away. Maybe it tells people where they can beat you, but like it just feels like everybody plays so well all the time.
I feel like, for example, in this team, I'm like the president. Basically, they play through me. If I want to do a play on duo, like I always ask, like, do we want to play duos? I like whatever you want. I was like, sure, I'm gonna play blue. So yeah, I think it's like mostly people is like helping me a lot. For example, Pegon go like, for example, to chase the enemy jungler, and I do red. Like that happened like a lot. So yeah, probably they play on me.
Sometimes it feels like you and Pegon will swap roles just depending on where you guys are. But you heard it here from Panitom first. He is him. He's the guy that they're playing through. It's a 3-1 win. Congratulations, man. Thanks for your time. And we'll go back to the desk.
Panitom's him. That's who the team is playing through, is that man right there for the postgame. No, again, a big win to the Oni Warriors. And, I mean, if you were to watch Game 2, 3, and even partial of Game 4 in that one, reason to believe that you would probably want to be playing through Panitom. The Erlang Shen in Games 2 and 3 looked absolutely unstoppable, the build that he was going. Even when he's boxing against other squishy targets, quote-unquote, he's 2-3 levels ahead of him at that point because he's just getting so far ahead in his farm. And his team is allowing him to be able to make plays like that, especially when you have things like the Khepri that allow you to be able to come back to life. Say, I can play more aggressive now because I've got that potential backup alongside me.
And being able to 100-0 a Cthulhu that was only like from Titan
in their
to
base.
Fountain.
Yeah,
like from Titan to Fountain is all the distance that had to be covered, and Panitom said, that's too far. I will kill you before you get back, because he's that far ahead. I'd listen to that guy too. Did he say he's the president?
I think he said that he is the president.
I'd vote for him. There you go. He's got my vote.
Pick Panitom. Hey, vote for Panitom if you want to get your wins out there. We can take a look, though, at the schedule for week number 4, as well as the standings to see what all happened this week and how that has shook up the standings moving into the last few weeks of the SPL. It all started back on Friday, a 3-2 for the Leviathans to not only take down the undefeated Ferrymen, but just continue their win streak. Then the Highland Ravens able to get a 3 over the Camelot Kings. Leads us into Saturday. We got to see the new Gilded Gladiators with their new mid laner, and then Snoopy moving over into a role. And they look great up against the Ferrymen. Not enough to find a win. That was a 3-1 to the Ferrymen, but still a great showing for the new squad. Camelot Kings with a 3-0 over the Hounds. And then today, we start with a 3-0 for the Jade Dragons, looking great with their new Hunter as well. And the Oni Warriors with a 3-1 over the Highland Ravens. And that can now lead us to kind of see how that does affect the standings. We still, for the time being, have the 6 Ferrymen on top of the Order division, though the Atlantis Leviathans hot on their heels at 5-2. Other side, Oni Warriors a clear cut above the rest for the time being, 5-1. The next highest up there being the 3-3 Camelot Kings, and then a 3-4 Highland Ravens falling. Gilded Gladiators so far the only team that hasn't been able to find a win just yet for themselves, but still have half of their games to be played. They're only at 5, similar to the Eldritch Hounds, while the rest of the league is at least at that 6 or even for some that 7-game mark right now. So where does that then lead us for next week? Well, we don't have the graphics to be able to provide it to you. I can at least give you a bit of an insight into some of the games to definitely look out for next week. The biggest one for me, Oni Warriors and 6 Ferrymen. That's the second game to be played on Saturday. 2 of our top teams. See if the Oni Warriors can still hold themselves as that top team. After that, I'm also looking over to Highland Ravens Gilded Gladiators because I really want to see what this Gladiators team has going for them, similar to the Gladiators and the Camelot Kings. So we get a 2 Gladiator sets.
Okay.
See how their new mid laner pops through there. And then just because it's the rivalry between the teams of how much time we've seen them against each other, 6 Ferrymen, Eldritch Hounds also going to be over there on Friday. So plenty of great SMITE to be happening in week number 5 of the SPL. We're starting to round out here to the back half, so make sure you don't miss out on any of it. On behalf of myself, Charlie, all the other casters, and everyone behind the scenes, thanks for watching. Stick around for the SCC. Otherwise, we'll see you for the SPL in week 5.